You know, when I found out that the patriarchy wasn't about horses anyway, I lost interest.
I feel like our quotes are kind of coming off just things that we've seen, not really branching out.
Yeah.
But that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Gosling and Barbie.
Yes, there you go. Gosling and Barbie. Yeah, should I go back to like the director quotes? I feel like that was kind of fun.
Whatever.
Doing that.
I enjoyed more of the guessing than the act, like hearing it again. You know, trying to rack my brain on who might have said it.
The thing with the directors was it took some work finding some crazy quotes from directors, because I always wanted to find some zany shit that they would always say. Yes, like what Lars von Trier said about Nazis and how he was a Nazi or whatever at that. I think it was at Cannes Film Festival or something.
Yeah, what did we watch by Lars von Trier?
I don't know.
It was ended Last Days, right?
That's Gus Van Sant.
Oh, what did we hear?
I don't think it's so. I was just picking directors that at just random.
Yeah,
like I wasn't really picking ones that were directing movies that we were talking about.
Lars von Trier, Gus Van Sant, three names.
A lot of Vans.
Yeah, a lot of Vans.
A lot of Vans. Chris Farley would be happy.
Yeah.
Or sad, depending on the context, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to it. Maybe I won't. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to turn you down a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, no, I genuinely like the guessing. That's cool though. I mean, that was a funny quip.
Yeah.
In the Barbie movie.
Well, it was a very it's a line that resonated with me quite a bit about horses and the patriarchy. Speaking of patriarchy, fuck capitalism, because Disney's doing some wacky shit.
What are they up to?
It was a quick headline that I came across that I was like, I'm going to screenshot this and talk about it on the podcast because it's making me feel a type of negative way. Apparently, Disney is going to stop releasing Blu-rays and DVDs in Australia.
Sure.
Just straight up. Just, hey.
They're not making enough money, so they said, we're not distributing any more than that.
You want physical media? Fuck you, Aussies. Yeah, go cook your shrimp on the barbecue or whatever you do with your kangaroos and all that. One. I know, right? Do they just not find... I'm wondering if it's just because they don't find it profitable in that region anymore. Like I don't 100%.
know. Well, you got to think about the shipping costs and I mean distributing, like just getting their content over to them. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they just link it up to a modem over there and they print it off, or if there's no you have to have a place that makes Blu-rays in Australia to reduce the shipping costs.
Yeah, and plus there's the whole regional thing with the Blu-ray players and all that
they
stuff.
Don't do it.
I'm not sure.
I don't. If anyone's from Australia listening, I don't mean to offend. I just I find it funny to think that they're still stuck on VHS.
They're probably already offended when I said kangaroo and shrimp on the Barbie, but I mean,
Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Yeah.
Steve Irwin. He was your guys' national treasure.
It's true G.
Yeah. But I don't know. I wanted to bring it up because it's an interesting idea, and I feel like it's something we touched on before, maybe a little bit, but not in a super lengthy discussion about physical media and the importance, or maybe some people even perceive importance of change of going from physical to digital versus preserving physical media and making sure that things don't get lost, because I'm of the viewpoint that if something is purely on a streaming service or just available digitally, then there's a risk of it being lost forever.
All they got to do is take it away.
Right.
If we're done licensing it, or it's not getting enough views, so we're just going to pull it.
Yeah. That's why I really want a physical edition of I'm Thinking of Ending Things from Netflix, because you can't get it on DVD or Blu-ray. You can get a Netflix account and you can watch it there, but that's it.
That's probably why they do it, though. If you have to think of proprietary rights for something.
Yeah.
If you want to view its original content, I would have to imagine that it wouldn't go away. It would just stay in the library.
Yeah.
If Disney makes a film, they put it on Disney Plus, right? It just stays in. They don't ever have to bring it down. Now if they were to license something from someone else, then you run the risk of the contract ended, it's not getting renewed. So There's always because I'm with you. It's a touch and feel scenario because I like having physical DVDs, owning. Not to say that you treat them like trading cards, but it's nice to have and be able to view whenever you want, and not have to worry about having to get a free trial and forgetting to end it.
Yeah, I mostly like it just for security reasons.
Right.
Like, it is nice to have them and to show them to people and display them, especially when you get a nice crispy Criterion Blu-ray from your local Barnes & Noble if they carry it, which sadly ours doesn't. We have to go all the way to Grand Rapids if we want that sort of thing. But it's one of those things too where I just like to make sure that I can have access to it at all times.
I definitely think it's a millennial thing. Like, I think once our kids grow up, like, I have to imagine that even everything's going to be digital. Like, but what will happen is there'll be so many buyers in the market that the price, like, we'll see subscriptions at like $2.99 a month.
Yeah,
just to have that content.
I've been seeing some. I don't go on TikTok really. I try to not go on it.
Humble brag.
I know, right? Showing my inner millennial right there. Not really inner, just I am. But sometimes TikTok content gets on YouTube and it gets on Reddit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've seen some really bad takes from like the TikTok film pages, and like one of them said, "Remember when millennials and Gen X tried to make DVDs and Blu-rays a thing?" It's like, what do you mean tried to? Like, it still is. Am I losing track of time? Am I getting too old now? Like, what is going on? Is it just like I feel like it might just be like a certain small demographic that's just always on TikTok that's saying that stuff and like has those takes, but I don't know if that's like an actual indication of the generation coming after us.
You talk about, I mean, mostly at anything now, you want to have it stored on something. So then you start looking at, like you said, the physical property of it and the actual, I mean, like, to make a DVD, package it, and sell it, I mean, there's so many costs that get involved with it. Whereas if you can just get out the content, eliminate those costs, you're reducing, not to get into all this business stuff, but like you're reducing your overhead and everything that it costs.
Oh, yeah.
To get it in there. So, and a lot of people are becoming so accustomed to just having their phone in their hand or being able just to click a button and access something that it's like, why should we have it? I mean, if you think about it, your parents probably, at least I know mine, if they have a password, they write it down on a piece of paper. Like, they don't trust that someone's going to get in there and find it, Whereas, you get us, it's like, well, I'll save the password, I'll have it, but maybe I will write it down somewhere just in case. We're going to get to a point where everything gets encrypted, and it's just, you have it, it's readily accessible, and you don't have to have it down on a piece of paper. Like, I'm sure a lot of these things, like paper, well, I shouldn't say it like that, but it will start to get reduced. I firmly believe that we're entering an age where everything's gonna be stored, saved, and accessible via click of a computer, and that's how we're gonna start to. And it for the most part, it's probably a good thing too. I mean, it preserves resources. It doesn't really cost anything, and it doesn't harm anyone to have the information stored anywhere. I don't know how much a giant modem takes up space, but
yeah, me neither. I'm the last person to ask about that sort of thing.
Like we're getting closer to Terminator than we all think.
Yeah, right. I just watched the new Mission Impossible, and that's very much the case according to that film.
Oh wow,
I know.
Tom Cruise out with some political statements.
As vaguely, general audience appealing as he can get with it. He's not really putting a stamp on it. He's just saying, "Hey, this thing exists. Let's talk about it." Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, too, that, like, obviously with physical, like you said, the overhead, it's not going to cost them as nearly as much money to just put it online for rent. And especially, too, with how, and, this is going to make me kind of sound like a boomer, but as the newer generations grow up and as they start figuring their stuff out, a lot of what they want is instant gratification. They want things then and they want things now.
Yeah.
Because think about it, before streaming services and movies being available online was a thing, you would have to wait for it to come out on VHS or DVD. There was a period of time where it wasn't in the theaters, but it wasn't out on DVD.
Can't wait till you're 60 explaining this to some kid.
I know. They're going to wheel me into the old folks home where I can watch old episodes of SpongeBob from season 3.
Yeah.
But also too, the cost to make it is, obviously much less, and plus like the instant gratification. Now a movie will come out right after it's done being in theaters. It'll come out online to rent, and the renting prices are like, they're small enough to where like people can just go, oh, I'll just rent it. But then they're also like a little bit more expensive than if a DVD comes out like 6 months after a theater release, and it's like, it's like a $1.99, rent it for like one night from a Redbox or something.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where like the cost is outweighing the, I guess, air quotes, importance of physical media.
Yeah. No, it's there. I think there's going to be they'll probably start to look in lesser markets and weed it out and see how it impacts that bottom line. At the end of the day, let's not forget all these they're money grabbing whores. So, I mean, seriously, like if they go and they're like, boy, profits went down 3%. Let's identify what happened in certain regions, and they look at Australia and they go, we thought that by reducing these, but not shipping out DVDs, right? Mm-hmm. Putting it on Disney Plus would increase viewership, and they realized they stayed stagnant and they lost sales because, their margins were slightly above average with selling their DVDs. They'll go back to doing it. Like, it's not all the stuff that we're seeing now, I think, is a lot of corporations figuring out what we can reduce our costs with without impacting that bottom line. And that's honestly that's what we're seeing. And I my fear is that at some point, I mean, movie theaters are just going to go away. I mean, everything's just going to be readily, like, right now, but there's going to be a gradual change because you got to see because it's unprecedented, what can we sell it at? What's it cost? Like, if these companies, they have $100 million budget, right? But maybe 30% of what gets covered is coming out of movie theaters. Like, you got to figure out, how do we gain that 30% back? So do you just, they'll start throwing it out there, and then they'll figure out the price range, and then they'll realize, a lot of people are viewing it at $15.99. Let's do it that way. And as soon as the movie gets released, we'll do it now. Now, is this? I don't know. I don't think this is going to happen within the next 5 years, but I mean, I really wouldn't be shocked if in like 20 years you were talking about a movie theater like you were talking about a drive-in. Yeah, there used to be the cinema carousel there.
It becomes a novelty in a sense.
Where it's almost like like a carnival.
Yeah,
like we go once a year to see the big movie that came out.
All right, time to ride Theater 7.
So that's my take on it. I think there's a lot of the scientific experimentation. You got the 5 questions or whatever. And it happens in business. This is just it. You find lesser markets and you see how it impacts you in those markets, and what what Newton's second law or whatever. For every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Is that reaction strong enough to take out what we did? That's what we'll be seeing. So I feel bad for the Aussies. They might be fist pumping too, though. I mean, maybe they're happy. Maybe they've got an overwhelming suffrage of fucking DVDs somewhere.
I mean, I'm sure there's a few blokes that I could bear to have more physical media. It was my attempt at an Aussie accent, mate.
That's not bad.
Sounds a little more New Zealand than anything.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how it turns out.
Regional dialect.
Yeah. It's in the same vicinity, mate. It's all well and good. Speaking of indigenous cultures, Wonka trailer. Did you watch that? Have you seen anything about
Timothy
that?
Chalamet, right?
Charlemagne, yes.
Or is that how you say
Chalamet?
Chalamet,
but yeah. I like Charlemagne.
Yeah, I've never. That's a kid that felt like the next Leo DeCio.
Timothy Chocolatier.
Dude, I did. It was before the Oppenheimer movie. I saw the trailer. It was that or Barbie. I don't remember what one, but it struck me as bizarre, wildly casted. I don't think that that's his role at all.
I don't think it is either, dude.
But I think they're trying. It's part of that, like, we're expanding your market and your people that are watching you. So like, it's the same. You see it with actors all the time. Like, hey, you've been doing all these serious films. Your name's pretty popular. Let's get you into this kid's film, and now they can grow up knowing that you were Willy Wonka.
Yeah, they probably went to him and said, "You're going to be this super iconic character from this really beloved intellectual property, you're going to be even more famed and legacied and recognizable than you have before. And then the trailer comes out, and I don't think it looks great.
No, God, no.
It looks like it's a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory made movie, is what I'm going to call it.
Oh, this is a money grab, and hey, Timothy, we're getting your name out there. Like, other than that, I can't.
Well, it's like everything feels very, and I'm going to continue with the dessert puns, cookie cutter, from what I could see in the trailer.
Well,
like, his performance doesn't feel, I don't know, it doesn't feel like there's super anything like passionate behind it, or
dude,
like,
you just did Dune. Like, you've been in all these very Call Me by Your Name, very cinematic or theatrical pieces, and now it's like, you're gonna be Willy Wonka. Like, you think he's like, great, I've always wanted to be Willy Wonka.
I think he more likely said, oh, great, I always wanted to make a shit ton of money at once.
Yeah. Like, that trailer came out, and as soon as I saw his name, like, my mind immediately went into, all right, who told him to take the role? Why did he take the role? What are they doing for him? Is this so, like, is he going to turn out to be the next, like, Burnout? Yeah, because these films, like, if it doesn't do really well, now, granted, not to say his whole career gets ruined, because he's been in a lot of big pieces, but, like, you take your name out of the hat on any sort of movie going forward, that skids the line of being kid friendly. You can't use him anymore, because they're gonna be like, do you remember like Mike Myers? You remember Mike Myers and Cat in the Hat? It's like, he's not doing anything that's kid friendly again.
Yeah, Well, it's. I also wonder too if he's like kind of entering the realm of like, maybe not necessarily Chris Pratt level, but like, I don't know, Tom Holland, like, at the risk of just being in blockbusters or like movies that just flop after he's done with Dune.
There's some guys that have done, like Tom Hardy had some good films, and then he came out with the one with Chris Evans or Chris Pine and Reese Witherspoon. Some like double, it was like an agent trying to get the girl.
Oh yeah, the fucking romantic comedy with like the spies.
And what usually happens is, from what I've heard of other, podcasts talk about it, is these guys, they get typecasted into a certain role, and you want to expand. Like, you have a market yourself because of your own, you're doing your own marketing as a person.
Yeah,
that you try to branch off and get these other roles,
brand recognition.
Yes, right. And the chick that saw or the guy that saw Inception isn't going to watch it, but the chick that didn't see Inception is going to watch that film. So now you're becoming a little bit more, your appeal's widening, right? But my personal opinion, what happened with him in that is that thing flopped, didn't do well, and that's when you ruin your name. You can't. No one's going to cast you again in some romantic comedy.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, if he's going that route, which would be my guess, is widening brand recognition, widening your appeal, it's got to work. And if it doesn't work, you kind of sell yourself out that way. Like, that's why Chris Pratt is doing well. Jurassic Park came out. It was fucking as safe can get.
Made shit ton of money.
And people are like, oh, I recognize that guy. That's Chris Pratt. He's the vanilla guy that doesn't really do anything. Like, awesome. He's kind of funny. He's got the moves, and he can move around real swanky. And everyone goes, yeah, that's cool. And he's so safe with it that it doesn't piss anyone off.
I love your use of the word swanky, by the way. That was a good use of it.
Thank you. Yeah. It's been getting brought up. I've dropped swanky a lot recently. I think that's why it's just at the top of my head with my vernacular.
Yeah, I've been dropping the word cadence a lot recently. Yeah,
I bet you it pops up here.
I guarantee you it will.
Just out of just casually just slip it in there.
I feel like I've said it every podcast episode that we've recorded since I've started using it.
I think you're right, because I think you dropped it in the last one, and I was like, oh, that's a kind of, not to say a weird term to drop in there, but you don't hear it a whole lot.
Yeah, I like to cycle through college words every once in a while just to stretch them out. Get their sea legs.
You gotta be careful. It could be another Charlemagne.
Could be. Did you see Hugh Grant in that trailer also as the Oompa Loompa?
No, I stopped watching it. Like, Like when I tell you my mind shut off, like I literally just started doing like in my head, and then I just heard like, and then or he goes, well, what are you, Mr. Oompa? He goes, I'm a Oompa Loompa or whatever it was, and I like looked back up. I was like, that sounded so racist. And then it just went to, Timothée Chalamet is Willy Wonka or whatever.
So how it was at the end of the trailer, he's sitting at a table and he's got like this little jar thing, and inside the jar is Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa. He's about the size of Mac's water bottle that he has right now. And I guess there's a bit of a controversy too, because people are coming out saying that the role should have gone to actual little people when it's a CGI Oompa Loompa being that is about the size of like it's probably like the size of 2 hot dogs stacked on top of each other.
Right.
So like it wouldn't have mattered if they were
pandering. People are pandering right now to get their platform out there.
Yeah.
That's another TikTok video right there that you're gonna see someone like, I don't know what's the correct is dwarf. Is that the correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Little person.
Yeah, little person. They'll be on TikTok.
Yeah.
Pandering to the people that want to listen and griping about it.
It's not even like that many little people. It's normal people. I shouldn't say normal people. You know what I mean? Regular sized human beings.
We're not pandering.
Regular sized human beings who are offended for people with dwarfism that are saying they should have put dwarves, like actual little people, in this role. And it's like, it doesn't matter. They're fucking CGI and it's stupid.
I read a Calvin and Hobbes skit where Calvin starts going off about who's going to tailor themselves to the dinosaur committee and voice, like we want to hear about the dinosaurs platform and this, that, and the other. And then the last thing is like, you got to, we want to be the niche community that gets politicians to pander to one side or, events or whatever. And like, I like read that and, I'm thinking, I'm like, holy shit. Like now that with social media, that's, you have that platform now, it's out there. So like, yeah, it's a CGI guy. We saw the smallest guy ever recorded, like, in the island of Dr. Moreau.
That's right.
And he was 2 feet tall. Like, they don't grow that size. So, like, it strikes me as odd. But what I really find humorous is that if that gains enough traction, it's going to sink this fucking movie.
I mean...
And there goes Timothy's kid-friendly career.
Oh, yeah. There goes Timothy's big come-out party.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it is, but it doesn't look great. It doesn't look great.
Bleak. Yeah, bleak at best.
Yeah. Speaking of bleak, there's a lot of existential crisis.
Oh, you want to do Barbie first?
In Barbie.
Oh, I was wondering what one we should do first, but I guess it probably won't matter since they're both new.
Yes, they both came out the exact same time.
Yeah, so we can't pick one or the other.
Yeah.
All right.
The fabled Barbenheimer, as it's being referred to. Which, this is the first episode we mention it, and, this is the only episode we're going to mention it again, so I hope you guys enjoy.
Barbenheimer?
Yes.
All right.
I'm just kind of kidding. You can bring it up if you want to. It's up to you. I'm not going to restrict you.
We'll talk about it after hours.
You're a free man.
Yeah.
You can do what you want.
I start listening to this thing. I just hear it get bleeped out every time I say it.
Yeah. You're like, what the fuck?
Go ahead, Mac. You can talk about it.
I've only had to censor you once, and it was when you, I think, name dropped somebody.
I'm glad you did, because I've had that conversation with a couple people and said I'm going to try to stop name dropping people, because
really,
even if it only reaches select audiences, those stories really that people don't have to have. Dude, we're talking about platforms. There's a CGI or dwarf that got. Speaking of bleeping
there's a bleep there.
Yeah, that got us yelled at. Imagine like a real person like hearing their name getting called out on this podcast and something like somewhat embarrassing.
Right? They're just enjoying it, listen to us, have a good time, and then all of a sudden they're like, "What?"
I do know someone that in a derogatory fashion did say the word. Not me just now, because that wasn't that.
That's not that was.
I'm not going to say any names, but they know if they're listening who it was, and they'll probably hear it and get a good chuckle. Yeah.
We're not going to name drop you, though. Don't worry.
No, we aren't. But I know that as soon as it got dropped, as like I did,
Yeah.
I caught myself, though. This person did not. And they just went on casually like it was acceptable.
Yeah, they just kept barreling through it.
Oh,
Sometimes you have to have that confidence level of, if I just keep going with this term that I just dropped casually, then maybe they won't notice.
Yeah.
But we do notice.
Yes, we do.
Every
and we
single
will
time.
pander.
We will pander. There's a shirt right there. So Barbie, since this was technically my recommendation, I can cover this one.
I was going to ask you to do it, too.
Cool. So Barbie, 2023 fantasy comedy, directed by Greta Gerwig, famed director of Lady Bird and Little Women, and written by Greta Gerwig and her husband, Noah Baumbach.
They are married.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I think they're married. I don't know 100% if they're married or just they've been dating since 2011.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was very pleased that when their names popped up in the opening credits that they both wrote it.
I like Noah Baumbach quite a bit.
Yes.
He's a guy that's a dude as far as writers, you know.
Another top 5 list that's coming out.
I mean, you kid, but maybe I'm not.
Top 5 dudes that are writers.
Top 5.
It's just our new thing.
It could happen.
Top 5 dudes that are comedy stars.
Yeah. Top 5 dudes that are comedy. Full stop. This film stars Margot Robbie as stereotypical Barbie and Ryan Gosling as Ken.
And Ken. Yep.
And Ken. That's right. His full name, and Ken. And is about Barbie, played by Margot Robbie, who lives in Barbie Land with all the other Barbies and all the other Kens. And all of a sudden, she starts feeling things that she hasn't experienced before, like existential dread, the sense of death, and cellulite, most importantly.
Yes.
And she goes on a journey to discover what's wrong, and her and Ken, played by Ryan Gosling, enter the real world to try and figure out what is going on.
Which is all that's alluded to in the trailer, too. I had to applaud it because a lot of the trailer was from just the exposition standpoint. Like, I don't think...
It really didn't give much away.
No, not at all. Like, you don't really... There's a lot of the scenes that happen in the trailer that are kind of like the laugh scenes, you know? Like, the big ones. Everyone had already saw, so...
Like the beach off and...
No, that one I don't think was in the trailer.
I think it was.
Was it?
Yeah,
oh,
I remember.
Okay.
I remember it before.
I've probably only seen one iteration of the trailer, but a lot of those jokes that they had in the trailer that played in the film was like kind of designed for the laughs. Like, didn't get that big of laughs because everyone knew it was coming.
Yeah,
but there were more laughs in there than that, which I was very pleased with.
I was happy with it because normally, sometimes when you see a comedy movie, they show the best jokes in the trailer.
Yes.
To get people to see the movie, obviously.
Yes.
But then when you go to see the movie, it's like, oh, I guess that's all there was.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. But thankfully, this movie isn't like that. There's
Agreed.
so much in it that's really fucking funny.
Yes.
And I can't wait to get into it.
Yes.
What I really love, I think the most about this, is that, going back to the trailer, they kind of give you a sense of, oh, Barbie and Ken are going to go into the real world, and that's where a lot of the humor is going to come from. It's going to be from them interacting with normal people.
Right.
And thankfully, the movie really isn't like that for the most part. Like, you spend probably... Spoilers for Barbie, by the way.
Thank you for doing that, because I wanted to say it, then I completely forgot.
Yes. I got you. Don't worry. You're the good Ken here. So... Luckily, that's only like 20 minutes of the movie.
Yes.
Or like 20, 25 minutes. And then they go back to Barbie Land. And all the stuff in Barbie Land with like Ryan Gosling and all the Kens and them taking over and then the Barbies having to take things back, that's where like most of the comedy is. And that's where a lot of it just works.
Oh, yeah.
Because this movie was fucking funny.
Dude, this is one of the better written movies that I've seen. Like... all time.
It's so good, and it has a perfect balance of self-awareness.
Yes.
But enough actual comedic chops behind it to make it stand on its own.
That's why I had to remember that Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach wrote this, because I saw their names. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna be in good hands. And then by the time it ended, I was like, fucking A. Like they must have had a blast writing that thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I read that they spent pretty much most of the COVID lockdown just going over the Barbie movie with each other.
Oh, really?
And the fact that they are, they're romantic partners and that they live together.
Well, 10 years is like a really, I mean, in that industry, I feel like you're pretty solid.
Right. So like they probably just were able to bounce off each other super well and to just like keep increasing the quality of their ideas.
Yes.
And you can tell it in the final product of this movie because it's,
oh yeah,
it's fucking sharp. And like most of the jokes really do land.
I was about to say, I mean, even a lot, like some of the throwaway lines, in the theater, so I went and saw this with the beautiful Jasmine.
Shout out.
And dude, she falls asleep in every film. Like it doesn't.
Oh no, did she sleep in this one?
2 minutes.
Oh no.
She goes, you woke me up when
to be fair, she's pregnant and she might have been tired.
True.
So
yes,
got to give her a pass.
I would if she hadn't done this in other films. So like, anyways, I'm not gonna get into that because that's a whole nother discussion.
Well, that's the thing too. As soon as she's not pregnant, though, she's not. She's not.
No,
on the
she's
hook.
done it before.
She's not off
this
the hook
isn't.
anymore.
That's what I'm saying. This isn't a pass. I don't give her like. I understand now that it's more likely to happen. But if that was the first time, I would have been like, what, But no, this is like a and I'm like, in this movie alone, like, how do you fall asleep? Like,
it's a reoccurring issue that we need to address right now.
Yeah, I mean, but. So, anyways, we're watching it. There are parts where I was the only one in the theater laughing, and then I'd laugh and I'd catch myself with my mouth because I didn't want to like be too loud.
Oh, you didn't want to disturb anyone else?
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know why other people like. It was kind of like the audience laughs were there, and I normally try to stay away from like joining the group and being like, oh, that's really funny, But I was even like, oh, that is really good. One of my throwaway lines that I really liked, and this is when I kind of got excited, was so there's the Kens are sitting there, and this is like, so a lot of the characters the acting seems a little odd, but they do a great job of playing plastic.
Yeah.
No personality whatsoever. Everything's the exact same. And they're sitting there talking, and there's three Kens talking, and the guy just looks over and goes, what bird do you think I'm thinking about? And then the guy goes, penguin, and then another guy goes, dinosaur. No, shit. And then he goes, it's a pelican. And then both of them were like, oh. What? I was like, how fucking random is that? One, just be like, what bird am I thinking about? And then two, like, genuinely invested trying to get it and disappointed when they didn't get it right.
I love the moment where one of the Barbies sneaks into the house to like lure the other Barbie away from the Ken that's in there.
Oh, and then Godfather.
The Ken is trying to explain the Godfather. He's like, you haven't seen the Godfather? Oh, it's Francis Ford Coppola's masterpiece that he made in 1972.
And he goes behind the production studio and how they like reinvented like whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They were mansplaining was the big theme in that one. Was like, oh, all you have to do is act like you're a dumb girl and they'll tell you anything you want to hear.
Oh, I absolutely loved it.
Oh yeah.
It didn't hold back with the types of humor that it was going for.
No, and like I'm gonna even say I was a little uncomfortable with some of the stuff that they were getting into because I was like, you just think about that stuff and it's like
makes you reflect on your own.
Yeah, like I think I've been in that boat before where I'm sitting there trying to, like I've done that or done this.
Oh yeah, like during that whole like Godfather joke, I was thinking to myself, is this how I fucking sound to people?
That's what I was thinking, the same thing. Like,
is this how I come across?
Yeah,
because I don't want to come across like that.
Yeah, that's what I don't know if I'm using the word mansplaining correctly, but that's exactly what I think of when I think it is. Yeah. Right? Like you don't get it, let me get it for you.
Yeah. I wish we had a woman on here to to tell us whether or not we are right or wrong, but
as we go through and explain this, but we're doing it to both sexes, so
true.
Well, I should say all sexes.
Yes. There's so much about this movie that I enjoy. It specifically, like I even like the and I mentioned the quote earlier today, like the as soon as I found out that the patriarchy wasn't about horses, I lost interest. Like I think that's one of my favorite lines in the film.
Dude, when he gets in there into the real world and like he starts looking around and sees guys doing everything, but they're all on horses. Like I was dying laughing. And then his like little like, you're a man, like, you know, like, what do you do? He's like, oh, I run this, I'm a manager. He was like, you direct other people? He goes, oh yeah. He goes, well, what about, you know, women? He's like, well, they're kind of getting into it too, you know. And he's like, well, isn't there like a glass ceiling or something? He's like, no, not technically, but we've gotten smarter about it. He's like, oh my God, you're so respected. He goes like, I wish I was. And they both like really laugh or whatever.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah, yes, the writing of this thing, there's no line. Honestly, the only thing I really didn't like about this was the ending. Like,
yeah,
and not the very ending scene was even funny. Like, I was very happy that's the route they went. But like the only part I was kind of, and I'm like, you know what? I mean, it's got me to this point. It's not like it's weak or it's strong. It was just kind of a little bit more sentimental, and
it's a very different tone from the rest of the movie.
Yes,
because the whole movie up until that point is just very comedic. There's not really a whole lot of like heavy emotional scenes. You get like maybe a snippet or two with like America Ferrera's character and like her monologue about women and how men view them and things like that.
Yes.
And then like her relationship with her daughter too. Like you get a little bit of that, but for the most part, even those scenes are like still played to a comedic effect because obviously her monologue is very like
punchy.
It's punchy. It's kind of long-winded, but it has a purpose because everything she says has meaning.
Yes.
And it's comedic in the fact that the things that she is listing is so long.
So I want to throw this out there because I just thought about it too. Because as she was talking about women, there's some sort of so I was thinking about the phrase like a paradox, if you will, you know. But I don't know if that's exactly how you could view it, but. You know, we're supposed to be this way, but if we do it, we're viewed that way, sort of deal. And then so actually, just talking about it, hearing that, I thought the whole movie was somewhat sort of paradoxical. You know, as like them going between worlds and realms, and the you know, I want to say dichotomy, but kind of like, you know, what's expected out of everyone.
Yeah, like what's expected out of both women and men. Right.
It seemed like a little bit of a, and I keep wanting to say paradox, but I mean, you're dealing with, it's almost like you're dealing with Barbie land, right? It's viewed one way. Then they go to the real world, which is viewed another way. Then they go back to Barbie land, which is almost as reflected like the real world. But you could tell that once they go back to the real world, this thing's supposed to sort of change what's going on there. You know, hand in hand, they're supposed to move fluidly while inspiring each sort of land. So,
well, it's a good commentary on both men and women, because I think a lot of people view this movie as like purely just a feminist film, and there's a lot of feminist themes and pro-woman messages obviously with a movie like this, but at the same time it's not like it doesn't touch on men's mental health or the way men view things or the different kind of issues that men face when it comes to living in a society. I know what I just said is kind of memed. We live in a society, haha. But it's true. Where like this movie is kind of a reflection of both of those issues. It's just a little bit more outwardly feminist, just because that's where like the main themes are. And it touches on the issues that men face, but through the lens of feminism and through the lens that they go through every day.
It's funny. Well, I mean, it's like you say that, but also, I mean, if you look at Barbie, the way I've always viewed it is, and there's a spiel on it about it being, you know, a capitalistic piece of whatever to get women to view themselves or have insecurities about themselves. Whereas, like, in the world that they're living in, the whole idea behind Barbie was so that you could feel empowered to do these certain things. Like when you buy a Barbie, that's the, you know, the pilot Barbie, you know, or the doctor Barbie.
Yeah.
Or the, I don't know if they had a lawyer Barbie, but, you know, the president Barbie.
Saul Goodman Barbie.
Yeah. Like, you know, like the idea behind it was that you'll buy this Barbie and you'll see not necessarily a projection of yourself, but what could be obtained. Yeah. You know, whereas the way that it sounds like, you know, females are buying Barbies for was just, you know, treat it like, oh, you got the Dr. Barbie. Well, I'm going to take off the doctor suit. And we're gonna you know, brush her hair. We're gonna put this on, and then it's just another doll.
Yeah,
you know. So it was really interesting to kind of hear both sides of like what Barbie was intended for versus like what we're actually consuming with it.
Yeah,
you know.
And I remember too, like growing up, I think it was around like when I was in maybe middle school or high school when they were talking about how Barbie was becoming controversial because of the disproportionate body types that they would sell and like how it would make women view themselves. And I like that this movie acknowledges it because to me it feels like the movie's being transparent with itself and it's holding itself accountable to what Barbie is as a property and like the kind of history that it has. With what you were saying with the whole intent of Barbie being, oh, women can play with these dolls and they can be whatever they want to be.
Well, they can
like
see themselves that way.
They can like project themselves into the dolls.
It's supposed to be like female empowerment. At least if Margot Robbie brings it up.
Right. And then that's obviously not everybody's perception of it. And they bring those up in the movie, which I like that they do that. It tells me that they're willing to touch every single base in a really interesting lens.
No, 100%. They didn't hold back any punches, but they did it in a very cheeky manner, which I think drives home the point, but doesn't offend anyone.
Oh yeah,
like I could see this movie.
Some people are being offended by
I could
this
see
movie.
people getting pissed off 100%, but like those people are probably people that I wouldn't go and sit down with and have tea with. So
yes, they're not allowed at our tea party.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't a Barbie joke either.
No.
Yeah, yes, a lot of witty jokes,
a lot of references. Yeah, a lot of witty jokes. Like I said, it feels like almost all the jokes land. I think what's kind of ironic too about this movie is that despite it being like mostly a message about feminism and empowering women and equality for women specifically, that to me Ryan Gosling is like the standout in this movie. For me he almost steals the movie, dude. Like it's kind of just ironic thinking about like the movie itself and the themes and like what I like the most about it.
I remember I was listening to some podcast before and they talked about the Black Panther and their favorite part of the Black Panther was the only white dude in it that played the like they were like he was fantastic as an actor. It's the guy that plays Gollum. I can't think of his name.
Oh, Andy Serkis?
Yeah, that was their favorite part of Black Panther.
That's weird because he's barely in the movie.
It was just a really good villain.
But
anyways, so that's what it kind of reminds me of. No, Gosling in this is fantastic. I think Margot Robbie had to play somewhat grounded of a character going through the existential crisis, whereas Gosling could just eat into the lines, and he does. I mean, like, at the beginning, I was kind of a little bit like, he's all right, and then the more it goes on, and the more I realize like how just plastic he is and getting true inspiration without actually understanding the inspiration behind it or what it could lead to, yes, he was awesome.
It's not a character that's meant to have a lot of depth. It's just a character that's meant to be a certain way and act a certain way and be portrayed a certain way. And Ryan Gosling nails it.
He's I don't want to say comedic relief, but he gets to play the funny part about all this where, Margot Robbie has to go through this stuff and convey to us that she's actually going through this stuff and she's learning these emotions at a rapid pace and having to discover the world, whereas Gosling doesn't have to do that at all. His sole purpose, as they define, is to impress Barbie.
He's given all the fun things to do in this film.
And he goes through a little bit of growth. You can't say he doesn't. I mean,
he goes through emotion. He has that breakdown at the end of the movie where he has that talk with Barbie. It kind of, to me, represents the whole like men's mentality of this whole movie. It's like, oh, you get the men's perspective on their issues and how they should be able to work through them by communicating.
Yes.
And then at the end of the movie, he's wearing a nice sweater that says "I am Knuff," and it's dude, it's great, and I want that sweater.
Same. So I read it very first. It just said "I am enough." And I kind of was like, no one in the theater laughed when that thing came on. And I saw the giant K, so I read it again. I like literally was the only one that was in the theater doing a Mac laugh.
So I'm glad you brought that back up because I didn't want to touch on that. I went to see this movie with my friends. So I went with Megan, Gideon, Lauren, Chris, and Bev, and we all saw it. And it was like probably a half full theater, but everybody was pretty much sitting in the same general vicinity. Like there wasn't that many people like towards the back, not many people that towards like we were all very much in the middle.
Yes.
And I think me and my friends were really the only ones in the movie just like laughing hysterically throughout most of the things that were happening.
Same with mine.
It kind of almost made things funnier for us just because like not that many people were laughing along with us, so like we were just like hamming it up in the theater. Like it was a good time. And I'm glad Megan was there to watch it with me too. Shout out to Megan, because she actually was able to recognize a lot of the outfits that Margot Robbie wore as Barbie. And she was like, oh, I remember this Barbie figure. Oh, I remember this outfit. I remember that coat that she had on when I was a little girl. And I don't know, kind of adds to the authenticity of, you know, the filmmakers and the costume designs and like the fucking set design too of this movie.
Oh, it is fantastic. It is so poppy.
It's insane. Like I'm convinced that's where most of the budget for this went to, because it's crazy. Like I heard at one point that the world was in a pink shortage, like a pink dye shortage because of this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, this thing it pops. I mean, this is kind of like this is Spice World, you know, all those songs put into one. Like just that, it's that sort of pop that it's easy on the eyes. It can get oversaturated, not the color, but like just with what if the tone of the film and the dialogue doesn't match, you might get bored of this universe, or at least annoyed with it. Yeah. Where every character fits in with how the world's being portrayed. So it really does a great job of becoming like an ancillary character in and of itself. You know, I mean, just the way that the beach looked and the houses, and I mean the colors everywhere. It's so bright and vibrant, and it really it adds to the tone of the film, and it really keeps you engaged too. You know, I mean, there's nothing really bleak about it.
No, just the existentialism and some of the thoughts that Margot Robbie has, you know, existential crisis Barbie, depression Barbie.
I think it opens up her world a little bit more to, at least for the writers, to be able to talk about these big subjects, you know,
right?
All the what's going on in the film. I mean, it's really just so that she has now opened up her mind to be able to accept these thoughts and ideas, and now that they get to tie the two hand in hand. And even the film itself, they don't spend a whole lot of time in the real world, because I don't think they wanted to use that as the message.
No.
You know?
And it could have been very easy for them to fall into the crutch of, oh, the characters interacting in the real world is where all the humor is going to come from.
Right.
And that's all the movie has to offer.
Yeah, that's going to be the kind of, it's going to be the fish out of water, and it's going to really be great, and they're going to have to discover all these things, and Gosling's going to play this like annoying dude that just picks up and just accepts ideas, doesn't have any thoughts of his own, and we'll just have him rise in the rank, you know, and they don't. I mean, it's
they give you enough of it to to sink your teeth into.
I love, dude. My favorite thing of that whole movie was the 1980s "I Am Ken" song.
Oh, I'm Just Ken,
dude. And then the dancing, the choreography. It was.
Megan has been playing that song every day and has had it stuck in her head, and it's now stuck in my head.
It's a great song.
It's awesome.
Really
I love the like synth that comes in, and like the kind of like breakdown, and then he comes in with the "I'm just Ken."
Yeah.
Anywhere else I'd be a 10.
Dude.
Is it my destiny to live and die a life of blonde fragility?
Yeah.
That's just to prove that I knew the words to the song.
I had no doubt, because I heard that thing, like this whole soundtrack. That was like, I think I could have this on my phone. I don't know if I'd be embarrassed about it or not.
That, and the Push song that he sings, the like Matchbox 21.
Oh God, yeah.
Where he's just hamming it up. If you like go back and listen to the actual song, and like just pay attention to the way he's pronouncing words. It's just so purposefully goofy. Like he's just, I wanna take you for ground now. Yeah. He's not even pronouncing words at that point. He's just like making gargled noises, and it's so funny.
They did that was real fun.
I think Gideon told me his favorite joke was when Alan is in the car with America Ferrera and her daughter, and they're trying to leave, and he's pointing to the construction workers, and he says, as soon as they figure out how to build a wall horizontally, we're screwed. Or like something like that.
Horizontally, not vertically.
Yeah.
And then they go to the wall and they're just building it straight up.
It just looks like a chimney.
Yeah. I love how he gets out there and just beats everyone's ass too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
I was not expecting that to happen. Well, it's kind of like, oh, I wonder if he's gonna go, hey guys, you know. And then all of a sudden he does like and I was like, oh, he's gonna get his ass kicked so they can drive off.
Greta Gerwig just said to herself, "What's the silliest thing I can have these actors do in this scene?" And then just let them do it. It really just felt like she just did that. Well, let's just give them room to have that fun and to like just. I'm going to take Michael Cera and I'm going to have him beat a bunch of like construction workers up. And it's just going to be funny to watch because you never see that in movies ever.
You wouldn't expect it either. I mean, it's kind of Alan's like the guy that you thought you would just be like, you know, they have the movies where some guy's getting his ass beat and he's like he's sacrificing himself for, you know, the cause to go on. Yeah. No, he's just going to go in there and then he kills a guy.
Yeah, it's like Jesus. Yeah, you thought Alan was just going to be the Dinkelhoff of Barbie, but he's a little more than that.
No, he serves a purpose. And
he's
then
Alan.
He gets involved with everything. He's like happy when they take back the government.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that was really funny.
No, the music in this was fantastic.
Music's great. I love it. I think
the first couple songs were really fun too, as they're just describing what Barbie's doing.
Yeah,
because they have the first song that comes in, it opens up, and it's like, oh, that's Barbie's tune, you know, and it's like, no wonder it's like some poppy rap. And then the next day when she's going through shit, who's ever singing it is narrating like what's going on as they're singing it. I was like, oh, that's pretty. That's a good touch.
So it's a little more dour in the lyrics, but it's still got like the cheerful tone with it.
Right.
I really enjoyed that. There's something that I wanted to mention too that I think kind of helps me think about this movie in relation to Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. It's sort of the same thing I feel about Django with Jamie Foxx and Christoph Waltz in that movie, where I really do like Jamie Foxx in that movie, and I think that he's a good choice, obviously, to play that character, and he plays it well. But Christoph Waltz as King Schultz in that movie is given so much fun things to do and say, and like he's given a lot of the good dialogue, and just the way he plays that character is just so much fun to me. I think that this movie to me is very similar to Django and how I feel about the main character and the secondary character that way, because like Margot Robbie is great as Barbie and she plays it perfectly, and she's given all the things that she needs to do and she does it very well. Ken, as you know, Ryan Gosling as that Ken character is just so much fun to watch. Yeah. And for me, just completely steals it. And I think comparing those two in that way helps me kind of think about my relation to how I feel about this movie.
You know, I do think he had a little bit more of a juicier role, you know. But he, like we're saying, though, I mean, he knocks it out of it's the same with Waltz. I mean, it's a little bit of a juicier role, you know, but you still have to take that role and knock it out of the park.
Absolutely.
And he did. He was fantastic. I don't think there was really one. The only character I was kind of like on was the daughter. Yeah. I really didn't need much more of her in it.
If I had like a big complaint about the movie, it would probably be her and America Ferrera. They didn't feel like they were really needed in the film. Like, it just kind of felt like their characters were just vehicles to get from a certain point.
But that's how the whole real world idea behind all of it too wasn't. It was a little bit enlightening, but there really wasn't much of it besides Margot Robbie to discover this and understand like these problems exist now. Right. You know, so I mean I thought America Ferrera
I liked her fine. I liked her monologue that she had. Yeah. And I would never say that their acting is really bad or anything, but I just, as far as their characters and like their relation to the story, it could have taken them or leave them, you know?
Yeah, I think I would have still take America in there. Like, the daughter was, at some point, like, the daughter just lost lines, and I was like, oh, thank God. And it was nothing against her. She just wasn't, once you find out that it wasn't her playing with Barbie, I was like, oh, then we really don't need her. And even them, you know, kindling another relationship or rekindling a relationship, like, great. You know, like I don't everything going on that's like almost like side quest D in this whole thing.
There's some movies where I feel like they reach a certain point where they meet like a kind of younger kid character, and then all of a sudden the movie kind of makes them the main character almost.
That's what I thought this was going.
That's where I thought this was going to, and I was kind of worried that it was heading there, but I'm thankful that it didn't.
No.
And the movie's all the better for it.
I'm talking the kid in this thing isn't like some other kid actors. Like God, they sucked. Like
she wasn't bad.
Yeah, she was just a B. Like where this whole film was
just
like
her character just didn't do anything after a certain point.
And I think in the writing, like, it was like, well, we've just kind of have her sitting here, so like let's not like keep feeding her lines. Like she's already done kind of like what we need her to do. Like you're saying, it was a vehicle, and you know that should suffice.
Yeah,
and it did. Like I don't think anyone that you watched this thing was like, I needed more of that relationship going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just felt bad because I was like, all of a sudden, America Ferrera is like sitting there talking with, you know, Barbie, and you can see it's centered on them now, and she's just kind of like there.
Yeah, she's just hanging out next to Kate McKinnon.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, that
just big chilling.
Yeah, it felt a little out of place, but nothing that's distracting or takes you out of it. I mean, if I had a gripe on the film,
if anything, you kind of forget that she's there sometimes.
You do. Well, that's what towards the end when they're in the car and they're driving back and they're singing the song, you know, because that's like the song you have to sing to get out. I was kind of like, oh yeah, I guess that she's still in this thing. Like I was almost expecting like just to be gone.
Yeah,
you know.
Mm-hmm. And then there was one other kind of like critique that I had. Nothing like to do with like the content of the movie really, but it's just like the cinematography didn't feel anything too special or unique. It was very straightforward.
But you know, I mean.
Yeah, it just felt like it was just shot like a normal comedy, but I mean, it is a comedy, so.
Yeah, they do some swooping crane shots coming down from the houses.
There's like a few things that are cool, and I'm not expecting like anything on the level of like Iñárritu or whatever, but like, you know, just something a little bit more would have made me really go like, ooh, that's impressive, that's nice, that's cool, that's zany. But as far as like critiques go, that's pretty much it. Like,
this didn't. I don't know who directed this, but this doesn't feel like that. This is who will get the accolades from this.
Greta Gerwig.
Oh, she directed this?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Have you seen any of her other films?
No. Lady Bird was one that I have on my list of movies to check out. That had a lot of Oscar talks behind it. I think that was like one of the first ones that she wrote and directed, maybe the first. And then Little Women with Florence Pugh didn't catch my interest. So
I want to watch Little Women after watching this, just to kind of like compare her directing different films. I really liked Lady Bird. Lady Bird I thought was great.
I don't think I won't like it. I've come to realize that the subject matter really has to pique my interest in order for me to be like, I'm gonna watch this.
Yeah, it's got Timothy Chalamet in it.
Yeah,
he's a side character.
Is he the boyfriend, or is he trying to date?
He's a boyfriend.
It's a tumultuous relationship, right, with a girl and her mom.
As tumultuous as a you know, the teen that doesn't care about anything can be.
Okay. Yeah.
His name is Kyle in the movie too, which is interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Interesting. I'm surprised that she didn't. Well, maybe, you know, she wrote it too then, so she probably was like, hey, like, we don't have to do anything special. Like, the actors and the writing alone is going to be like what wins this, you know?
Yeah, I think she had a strong hand in just like setting the tone, getting everything to look great, and obviously like directing Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie to how she wanted them to perform and like come across on screen, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, props to her because this movie's great.
Yeah, this is truly this is a hard one to kind of nitpick at, but there's just so many fun things in it where, like, really we could just spend the whole time just going on and on about what was fantastic. Because, like,
we could.
I mean, like, the film, I walked out. I didn't know what I was getting into. Both movie-going experiences were mediocre. And this one, I had someone that was sitting behind me.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, and just kept just neat. I'm 6'2". Not once did I touch the recliner in front of me. Now I don't know if she was leaning back or not, but I just kept getting bumped.
Yeah.
Not enough to be like, hey, knock it off, but like
enough to kind of make you go like,
Yeah, just like, all right, like what's going on back there? Why can't we get adjusted? Like, are you bored of this film? You know, and it just looked like a bunch of mouth breathers. Like I didn't hear them really laugh. They were kind of just talking throughout the film. Like every once in a while you'd hear a quip or like, oh, that's, you know, and then kind of like a laugh. Like they're the ones I can see walking out.
That's Simu Liu from the Shang-Chi movie.
Yeah,
he's in Marvel. I think he's gonna be in the Avengers.
That's exactly what was like going on behind me. So I that was about it though. I think Oppenheimer was a little bit more distracting, but you know.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
I had we had some kids behind us, probably like 4 or 5. And
4 or 5 kids was the ages.
The ages.
Okay.
Two kids, probably like 4 or 5, and they did not have any sense of whispering. Like anytime they wanted to point something out or ask their mom a question, they would just ask it, like just out loud.
Yeah.
Like how I'm talking right now, and it didn't bother me too much because they were just kids, and I didn't want to like turn around and be like, "Shut the fuck up, you little shit." But you know, the thought crosses my mind sometimes. Like, oh, do I eat this child across the theater? What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you know, I think it depends on the film too. Like, if a film's like,
and that's kind of why I didn't.
Probably a little bit. Well, I'm not even saying like I give them a pass just from being a Barbie movie. It's more of like you're so engaged with the film, like you hear that stuff, and it's kind of like, oh god, you know, and then it's like, but I don't want to miss this next line.
And that's a big part of what it was too. Is like I was enjoying the movie so much that it really anything that was going on around me that would have bugged me otherwise just didn't really.
That's how I was.
Not enough for me to get like tied up about it. So
yes.
Luckily that was the case. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about with Barbie?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I splendid.
Splenda.
My biggest thing is like just go out and see this film. Like that's my biggest.
There's not a whole lot of comedies that can make me laugh as hard as this movie did.
Dude, this thing, yes.
Like it's very effective in just.
I wouldn't even have guessed when I saw the trailer that it was like a straight comedy, like because of the existential crisis and all that. It's kind of like, well, what's gonna happen once I get? Honestly, I thought they were gonna spend a lot of time in the real world. Me
too.
And then all of a sudden they make it back, and I was like, oh yay!
Oh yes, thank the Lord.
You know,
yeah.
And Will Ferrell in this is not distracting, which
I was pleasantly surprised about.
That was my biggest fear. Was like, as Will Ferrell's getting a little older, he seems to be leaning a lot more into his persona, which usually dries out, and it kind of gets like he's dry.
He's very restrained in this film.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Well, and when he does like some Will Ferrell stuff, it's warranted and it's fine. Like I think the only thing I didn't find funny that they thought would be great is like when he's like, "Let's go over the cubicle." Like throw me over. It's like,
I think that's a good example of a great director who can direct Will Ferrell into doing something that doesn't make you cringe.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in a lot of his movies, the director just says, "All right, this is the scene. This is what your character has to do. Do it however the fuck you want." And then he always kind of falls back on his man-child routine that he's known for. This movie, it feels like Greta Gerwig had a good hold on him and was like, "All right, you're good at this. I need you to do this exactly how I'm telling you to. Do not deviate from it." And he's like, "Got it."
Well, you said man-child. Like, it kind of fits in with, you know, the theme of men in this.
A little bit,
you know,
but like...
Not... Yes.
Not to the degree where he's like screaming the entire time and like I don't know, hopping around like a fucking maniac.
No, he the only issue I had was that the cubicle. I thought the other one that I was like, oh great, was when they were trying to get out with the key card, and he grabs it and throws it at it, and then he goes yes because it lights up in green and then goes back to red. He goes, oh no, he blew it. Dude, I thought that was gonna be really terrible. That I actually was like, oh, that's pretty funny.
He's just genuinely upset that he can't get through the fucking bar.
Fucking just yanks it and throws it at it like that's supposed to open it up. Like it's a fucking, you press it down, it's a key card. Like there's no time to waste, and just like I'm gonna save 3 milliseconds.
It's the implication that he's never had to go back through it since he's been in that tower. So he just has no idea how it fucking works.
So stupid.
He's just always up in there. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Great movie. What would you rate it If you had to slap a number.
So it's gonna sound really weird as I talk about both these films. This is it's like a 9.7 to 5 out of 10. Like I don't know. It's very close to a 10, but I don't think I have too many comedies that are 10 because I always feel that they'll get stale.
Right.
And to say that 0.25 is literally like what factors into every movie when I rate it. It's that how much of this will I really enjoy upon reviewing it again and again and again. And this film, I feel like I could watch it like 2 more times and then I'll be like, I'm good on it. But like, no, this is like as close to a 10 as I could give a film. So I wish that there was more decimals in there. But yeah, it's a 9 out of 10 with, I mean, honestly, like it's I wouldn't be shocked if I saw this again and I laughed at the same parts as this is a 10.
Yeah.
I mean, the acting, like I know you said the cinematography I didn't really care about. Like the writing was fantastic.
Set design's awesome.
Oh, everything clicks. Everything really clicks. And one of the things that you got to appreciate in a movie is when they can take some heavy subject matter and lighten it up or fluff it up enough to where it's not offensive, and it still has a purpose and a point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what this film had. So,
this for me is a very, very, very high 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Yes.
Whoa.
I know.
Man, I thought you were going to be a 9. I thought you were going to be 9 out of 10 for sure.
It's very close. Like, if I watch it one more time, I might bump it up.
Right.
Just to, like, gauge how I really feel
like
about it.
Like, one more joke that you see that you didn't recognize the first time that you laugh at, and you're like, holy shit. Like, yeah. Like, this thing, everything, even when I don't think it's coming, like, it still comes.
To me, it's an 8 out of 10, but, like, it's as, like you said, it's as fucking close to a 9 out of 10 as you can get without it being a 9 out of 10. Like, it's super fucking good. Love Ryan Gosling. Margot Robbie's great. The set design's awesome. There's a lot of work that went into it, and it fucking shows.
Yes.
Will Ferrell wasn't as annoying as I thought he would be. Obviously, cinematography isn't anything super memorable, and there's some like character stuff that after a certain point, like you said with the kid, doesn't really feels like it matters.
Some of it gets stale. But I mean, so many of the jokes land, and I think it's a testament for me personally that this movie just made me laugh as much as it did, because I am very hard to make laugh with a movie. Dour, as people have said before.
Yes. Nihilistic even.
Yeah. Boy, that's a big 9-letter word.
It is. Is it? Not. I'm not going to count it right now.
It's okay. I just threw out a number.
Yeah. Speaking of numbers.
Oh,
there's a countdown, and when it comes to a countdown, Christopher Nolan included it in the trailer for his movie Oppenheimer. All right, well, we're gonna hear what you got, because you're gonna cover Oppenheimer for us.
Yeah, so we went and saw Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is a movie written and directed by Christopher Nolan. I'm going through right now. I think he wrote this.
You are right. He definitely did.
Perfect. Okay. Starring Cillian Murphy as J. Robert Oppenheimer. No one knows what the J is for.
I do.
Ooh.
It's well, I won't say it before I give a spoiler warning.
All right. Good call.
Even though I don't think they say it in the movie.
No, they don't. Emily Blunt, they literally do that joke of like, no one knows what the J's for, and then they just call him Robert the whole time.
And then they just fucking ignore it.
Which will probably actually play into what I have to say about the names. Emily Blunt with Kitty Oppenheimer, Matt Damon as Leslie Groves, Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Strauss. And then anyone that's ever acted in Hollywood playing secondary roles.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
This is literally like the who's who as people come in of where do I know that guy from? Mm-hmm. One name that I do want to shout out, Macon Blair as Lloyd Garrison.
Yes, I was very happy to see him in this movie.
He must have put on weight for this thing, or his prosthetics, because like I was looking at him, I'm like, I know that guy. You know, and then Sam was like, "Oh yeah, Macon Blair in this too." Was like,
that's what I thought to myself too. I was like, "Hey, it's Mr. Blue Ruin Man right there."
Yeah,
awesome.
As soon as David Krumholtz as Isidore Rabi, that was a guy. He was the elf in the Santa Claus.
Oh, really?
Anytime I see him, I'm always like, "Oh yeah, he's." and I'm not one to judge. I've added some pounds too, so it's just interesting to see some of these guys where it's like, I don't know if you like that's a new game, fat or prosthetics.
You're just method acting for Nolan's next movie.
Oh, I can't wait to audition for
He's
that.
going to include every U.S. citizen that has ever lived.
Seriously, dude, this is like I'm just going through this. It's a who's who. Anyways, Matthew Modine's in this too. Anyway, the story of the American scientist and his role in the development of the atomic bomb. What opens up with, I can't remember if I think Strauss is talking a little bit, like they do the courtroom hearing, and then they kind of get into Oppenheimer's life, and you get a little bit of a flashback of him getting into theoretical science, kind of having some of these visions, and they intertwine these stories. So there's a couple different color formats as we see kind of like what's happening, what was like before, what was happening. I don't want to say like currently was black and white, before was in color.
So I know, not to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
I know the meaning behind the different color grading.
So,
but I can save it for after you're done.
Spoiler alerts with Oppenheimer. Yeah, and essentially it's the story of how he built the bomb and sort of his life and what it meant to be the man that built the bomb. So spoilers
for Oppenheimer. So with the black and white versus the color scenes, and this is something that I heard about before I saw the movie, and then I read about it today, so it kind of confirmed my thinking of it.
Yeah,
the scenes in black and white are supposed to be a more objective view of how the events took place.
Right.
So essentially it's supposed to be more or less the truth of what took place, whereas the color scenes are a more subjective view from Oppenheimer's perspective within the film.
Okay.
So like that's why a lot of the scenes in color are following Cillian Murphy's character specifically.
Yes.
And then a lot of the ancillary stuff with Louis Strauss and Robert Downey Jr. and like all those other characters in the court hearing, and then like some other few scenes here and there are in black and white because they're more straightforward and objective.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I think by the end of the film, he's talking to Einstein, and that the guy, he looked like he was in The Dark Knight. I can't remember what Sam told me what film he was in. He kind of said, well, how do you know that him and Einstein were talking about you? And then it goes to that scene, you actually get to see what they talked about. And then it kind of transitioned into color and, talking about that. So anyways, do we do goods or bads first?
I think I'll just like say my baseline opinion of it. I really enjoy this movie. I think I'm going to need to watch it again to really like.
Wow, we couldn't have been more in the same boat.
Cement my view of it. I think it's important for me to say how I watched this movie. So I saw it in 70 millimeter IMAX.
Yes, I've had a lot of people that are film purists that say they want to watch it in that format.
Yeah, and it's like it's very difficult to do it right now because I tried to see if there were any more times available to go see it with Megan because she wants to see it in 70 millimeter.
Just see it in the normal viewing, and now you can compare and contrast the difference. Well, that's the one thing that I'm curious about.
Because Megan wants to see it in IMAX.
Oh,
but unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of availability now because there's the big buzz about it, and people are going in droves to see it in IMAX. Like, this movie's making money. It's making a lot of money.
Well, yeah, dude, Christopher Nolan's Christopher Nolan 10 years ago was bitching about IMAX. He said it was like that's the way where film's going. He thought it was absolutely ridiculous. And I think he was like, oh, you know what? Let's just market this thing. We'll say the best way to see it is in IMAX, and we'll just let all the fucking hype around it build up to where people can only want to see it in IMAX.
Yeah.
This is my take on it. Gotcha.
But I mean, it looks like we'll have to watch it in normal theater anyway soon.
Yeah,
if it doesn't stay in IMAX long, I know, right? How hipster of me. Totally not my usual MO. But all that to say is that me watching it in IMAX was an interesting experience because I managed to get the furthest seat away that I could get from the screen was in row D, which is it's kind of like more towards the front, and it was a little bit more off to the side, and the picture looked great. and the sound and everything was awesome, and like just the theater experience was amazing. Like there wasn't anybody who was a fucking asshole. Like pretty much it did. We'll get to your experience too, I guess.
Mine's not terrible, but it definitely there's
something to say about it. But all that being said, I felt like I had to kind of pick and choose where I was looking at on the screen because it was so fucking massive, and because I was like kind of close to it. Like I wasn't the closest I could have possibly been, but I was like near-ish the front.
That's what I had to do with Top Gun when we went and saw Maverick. Like we were in row B, like in the middle of it, and I was like, we're on a thrill ride right now, and I was like, I can't just soak in the whole screen.
Yeah, I couldn't either, and it took me probably 20 minutes to a half hour to really get used to how it looked, because the way it was framed and the position that I was sitting in, it was almost kind of skewed a little bit. Like the perspective was just kind of off. Yeah. So I want to watch it again in a better seat to get a better perspective of it, because like visually the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm just like, whoa. I'm looking at like 3 different angles like at the same time, trying to take everything in, and it's cutting from like scene to scene, back to back, with like this music continuously going on, and everything's just going, and I had to try to catch up with things that are happening in this movie. Dude, like it felt like I was at a running pace with this film.
You have to be. One of my biggest problems that I had. So my viewing experience, I went to the Grand Haven 9, and that I love that theater. It's right down the road from me, and it's generally not too bad. And I was kind of nervous that there was gonna be a lot of people, and there was a 5:45 showing. I think I was the first one in there. If not, there was like one other set of people in there, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all the old people started coming in droves.
Oh boy.
We probably had about 25 of us in there, with 80% being over the age of 75, which made me concerned with the film itself. Yeah. So I was like, this isn't the people that I talked to that said I've wanted to see this.
Well, a lot of people probably met Oppenheimer there.
Dude, people were like, so I sat like where the bar's at, and the first problem was that there was like a couple that came in there, and they were sitting there talking the whole time. They actually ended up being quiet, which I was very happy about. And then you had a high school kid that brought his grandma to see it, and I was like, oh, that's a cute date night, dude, she was fucking like, not talking the whole time, just at points would just be like, oh, can you believe that?
Just make exclamations.
Yeah, like the old person like watching it at home, like talking to who's ever around, or just,
oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Or by themselves, like when they're watching something that blows their mind, So she did that. It's like doing that half the film, and I just kept being like, Jesus Christ, lady, like the best part, she fell asleep. So
she's sitting there going like, wow, that's awesome.
Not only was she able to do it fucking consciously, but unconsciously. She just started snoring. And I'm like sitting there, and I was like, I don't know if that's part of the film, because it got to a low point where they were kind of talking about some serious stuff. And I don't know if like it was Leslie Groves fucking with them or whatnot. And then I realized like, she's sleeping. And then there was a spider or something that got right into the middle of the screen.
Oh no.
So it's just this little dot that's just sitting up there, but you can't, it's right in the fucking middle of it.
That's distracting.
So like I'm trying not to, and it's in black and white, so when they do that, like you can't see it. And I'm like, I don't know if that's just part of the film. Like if they like something got hit with the film itself.
They put a spider post-production in there.
I don't know. It was like one of those things. So anyways, that was about it. And that was like the only bad thing that kind of, but it was enough to kind of, and like you said, you're sprinting alongside this car the whole time. If you stop to catch your breath, or like, like, hey, oh my God,
it's gonna leave you behind.
Oh, big time. Yeah. So, anyways, we're like,
that's funny because someone fell asleep at a Mission Impossible yesterday, and they started snoring.
Yeah, I know her name too.
Someone had to like brush them up and be like, hey, wake up, man. Wake up. Twice in 1 year that I've been to the theater and someone's fallen asleep and started snoring. The first one was Beau is Afraid.
I've got you beat.
And then the second one is oh really?
Well, any movie I go to see with someone, it's always kind of like,
oh yeah, with Jasmine. I gotcha. She's the the experience for you. So yeah, Oppenheimer. It's a big movie. It's a heavy movie. Yeah. It is it's a bomb of a film. Not in the bad sense, but like it's just heavy, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
It really is. So one of the first things is kind of funny is as I'm watching this, we went golfing with my dad before the diaper party, and he was talking about, me and Sam were talking about some film that, you know, whatever, and he goes, oh my God, I'd put that on all the time on half days. You know, like that was my film to go to. Kind of has some subject matter that relates to what we're teaching or just being in the class itself. And we could put, I'm watching this thing, and after the first 30 minutes, I was like, what teacher calls dibs on showing this to their class?
Right.
You know, like this is a movie where if you're 50 and you have a rainy day and it's like we're getting the projector on to show the science teacher showing it, the government, someone showing
history
this
teacher.
film. Yeah, and like, you know, someone has to call dibs on it because like you can't watch it in 3 other classes. So like that's kind of like how the whole story gets portrayed. So I'll just say I kept my expectations low, but my whole thought was that this was leading up to the bomb. So as we said, spoilers, you get to see a bomb go off. I think they built a bomb. I don't know if it was necessarily a nuclear bomb, but it was something of the magnitude.
So I read about it, and what happened was he used a myriad of different explosives to create the effect, and then he played around with the scaling of it, kind of like Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
So it was made to look a lot bigger than it actually was, but he used enough explosives to give it a sort of nuclear bomb sense. So like kind of like
magnitude of the bomb,
the magnitude,
force, whatever you
the
want.
shock wave, the whole like mushroom cloud thing, and of course the sound design helps a lot with that too.
Oh, dude, that.
Like the sound design in this movie alone is just insane.
Dude, fuck the score and the sound design, fantastic.
Absolutely, like probably the best part of the film.
So I've talked to people about this, and you know, I'm like, when you talk about a Nolan film, I'm like, in terms of like just the entertainment value and all that, I'm like, I don't know, it's not quite there in my opinion with everything else. In terms of filmmaking, I was like, this might be one of his best films.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it really. To me, compared to Tenet, his last movie, it really feels like he stepped up his game with the filmmaking specifically.
Yeah. And like, getting creative with it. And like,
creative with it, everything going into it, like the music, fucking Ludwig Göransson, who did the music, like absolutely incredible. And it just plays throughout. And it kind of helps give that sense of, oh, this car's going, you got to keep up with it. If you fall behind, it's going to fucking leave your ass. And I kind of like that. About the film. I like that it gives you that sense of fucking urgency throughout it.
Reminds me of the Batman when we talked about that one. And I was like, there's just constantly music playing in it, but it's like all this like techno ominous vibing music that has to keep you engaged with it. Because like if you're not, like we talked about, thinking of the Batman and all the action that goes along, you're gonna get taken out. And this film, it felt like the score was keeping you in it because of the subject matter and what was being talked about, but it's done in a way that really portrays like the emotions Cillian Murphy's going through. Yeah, you know, and it even if it's swooping or if it's pulsating or whatever, like it helps with the vibe of what's going on and lets you know almost like subconsciously, like, hey, this is kind of like an ominous part of the film, or no, like he's not really sure what he's getting into, or hey, he knows what he just did, and now you're in his brain with him. You know?
I was reading about Ludwig Göransson making the soundtrack and the theme specific to Oppenheimer as a character, and how he explained how he wanted it to be very string heavy. A lot of violins, and he wanted it to give a sense of a scene could go from optimistic and hopeful to sort of in almost like a kind of horror movie type way, like a dour sort of like unyielding, scary type of tone.
Yeah, it could. You just open a door and you don't know what you're getting into.
Like the character goes through a realization, and you realize when the music just kind of dips into something a little bit different, and then it just keeps on going with it.
Yes,
and I really like that about this movie.
For the most part, like sometimes that'll take me out because I hate directors telling me like this is how you're supposed to feel, or really adding on to, but with this one it really helps because he's so fucking even keeled. You know, I mean, that's just what happens when you're in charge of your emotions constantly and you understand what you're going through, and with, you know, and this sort of like, you know, in his mindset, I mean, anything he can conquer. He's the smartest guy in his, you know, to himself in the world.
It's funny that you bring up the Batman, because with that movie, I feel like I really had an issue with that kind of thing specifically, where the music was trying to tell me how to feel, especially towards the end with the no spoilers for the Batman, but like the bike scene.
Yes.
This movie, it definitely was a lot more earned, and just it meshed super well with the camera work and the acting and the line delivery. Like, Cillian Murphy's voice in this movie is so good. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role.
I would not be shocked either. I thought he did a really good job.
His eyes were so piercing. It's just so bright blue.
Well, he's got, he's carrying the weight of the world on his like, everywhere he goes. Like, I was talking to Sam about this, and Sam had a lot of conflicting thoughts with where I was at, but we lined up with some, so you'll kind of hear me talk about this stuff, and maybe you might not know where I'm going with my score. But like, he wasn't too impressed with him. He said he was all right, he was good, and I'm like,
interesting.
Well, and I kept making the point. I was like, dude, like, he's doing something that's going to change mankind. Like, there aren't a lot of people in this world, for good or for bad, that you in that sense have done that. Like, Hitler is close to what Cillian Murphy was doing. Like, and I'm like, you think NASA, but even we've progressed. They've tried the space program. So I mean, like, there's been a couple people that landed on the moon or changed. I don't even know, like, change currency, overthrown a government. Like, that all affects society. But in the long run, like, history, it won't rewrite the books, where this, like, rewrote the fucking books, and
it changed how the world worked.
And and he's the one that's got to see enough into the future to recognize, like, what am I doing now? How is that going to impact 30 years from now? And even he couldn't do it. And I think he brought up a couple things that weren't invented till like the 60s or 70s with what his kind of thoughts and ideas were going with stuff. But, like, I think it's very hard to, like, as a person, understand that weight, the gravitas. Like, how do you're one of one.
It's funny because there's a lot of people online, it's kind of along that same thought process, where they view Oppenheimer as a giant hypocrite because he's the one who made the bomb. He's the one who had the key role in developing it and really going about, like, the Manhattan Project. But then he comes and turns around to regret his decision, and then all of a sudden people like to comment on it saying, oh, well, if you regret it so much, you shouldn't have made it. It's like, there's sometimes things you don't realize until it's too late, obviously. And a lot of what this movie wanted to touch on, and that I think did it in a successful way, and especially after I read about it, is they wanted to make it feel like Oppenheimer as a character has the quickest turnaround from patriotism and pride and a sense of accomplishment to absolute dread, fear for the future, and just a complete uncertainty as to what the atomic bomb was going to do for humanity. And it does it really well with that fucking speech scene that he gives. Like, probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
He has no idea what, like, to even say. The war's ended. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like, we did it, and then you just think, at what cost? And then, like, all of a sudden you hear about the damage, the destruction, people and, like, you just got to think, like, oh shit, like, you can only theorize so much. That was, like, one of the things that they would always talk about, and you can only, until it becomes application, it's only theory. So you really don't know. Like, when they hit that button, you don't know if that bomb's going to go off or not, or what it's going to do.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of this is, like, you don't know. Which is maybe kind of funny, like, if you think about it, with Newton's laws, that, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. A lot of the time, like, you can guess or assume by applying math to what that reaction is. With this one, you can't. And a lot of these things that happen, there's a lot of, we don't know what that next step will look like, because once we take it, we're really just going into the darkness.
And there's not really any going back from it.
No,
either.
I liked it. I really liked the end of the film, and I thought it was a little cliche, but, like, when he's talking to Einstein, and that was one of the things that they talked about, was, like, it could set the atmosphere on fire and destroy humankind as we know it. And he says, like, I think that's what I did, But some of the other arguments that I have that I thought the purpose of doing was he did think that this would solve the like any sort of world war. Like you will have disputes and wars that are very isolated.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I was like after this one you had the Korean War, which I'm not a history buff, so don't sit here but the Vietnam War, which is very political, and then you had the Iraq War, the Afghan, like not a lot of parties though getting pulled in. You're not having 5 countries team up and say we're taking down these 3 countries, you know, and stuff like that. So like that was one of the things he talked about was he thought this would solve the war of wars, but he couldn't forecast people. You know, and then he goes and talks to Truman, and Truman's like, I got all the power now, son of a bitch. Like, thanks. Yeah. Like, see you later.
Get this crybaby out of my office.
Yeah. Like, and then like that's when he kind of realizes, like, I'm not in control of this anymore, and I don't know what this could do, because really, like, I gave everyone the answer to stopping this stuff, and now it sounds like we're going to use it in the other way.
Yeah.
Which is, like, you can't, how do you theorize that? Like, what do you know, it's like, well, we just got to hope that if we flip the coin, it lands on heads.
Yeah. I was reading about how Cillian Murphy commented on Robert J. Oppenheimer.
Robert
Oppenheimer.
Oh, Kyle, you're so, oh my God, you can't get it. Wow. Yeah. What's the J for?
Julius.
Nerd.
Right. Fucking dweeb. No, I was reading about how he views the character, and I think obviously in a lot of different ways the real life person, as being naive in the way he thought that nuclear power and the atomic bomb would be used and would be handled and would just be thought about in the general human consensus, because you put that much faith in people, it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
And the movie kind of does end on like that more dour note, and it shows like the Earth's atmosphere catching on fire, and it's like it leaves you with that, and it's like, shit, this could actually take place and just destroy everything.
You know, so there's that. I don't know, like, 'cause I have that thought, and then I'm like, well, shit, he projected there would be like an international nuclear peace treaty that would form about, which has happened. I mean, it's like, I think everyone knows, like, if we start just pushing buttons, like, that's why it's changed. Like, if we start pushing buttons and try to control land, like, this all goes to shit. Like, let's start, like, focusing on money and how we can help each other make more money or steal money, whatever. Yeah. You know, so, like, he forecasted that, and I think that's kind of where I didn't, I don't know. That was, like, a little gripe I had with that, how the film ended. I'm like, well, fuck, like, we're 67 years past all this happening. Like, why are you ending it like this? We've all seen, you know, that it hasn't gone that way. It probably won't. I think everyone now is much smarter than they were 67 years ago and understanding what that does lead to, you know?
I think Chris Nolan wanted to leave it on a note with, like, it probably wouldn't happen, but it could happen. Like, it's something that is still a possibility. And that the fact that it is still a possibility should be something that's a little concerning.
He was like the 0.0001% of it igniting the Earth's atmosphere on fire, right? It's like, it's still a chance. And it's like, yeah, but, like, in terms of probability, like, that's as high as you can get. Like, it's the Doctor Strange, you have 1 in a million or 1 in 13 billion chance. Like, great. You know, like, and then the odds of it happening have to be so astronomical in terms of any event ever ran. That's the only thing I didn't really like about it. And it doesn't have to end on a good note with him, because his life really didn't end on a great note, you know. So, like, I get it fit in with the tone of the film. So,
what did you think about and we kind of touched on this earlier, but, like, there is that quick turnaround of him having that sense of accomplishment versus that sense of dread with that that, like, town hall scene where he gives that speech. What do you think about that? Because I can totally see it being a little bit more of a negative aspect of the film, because people could view it and say, like, oh, well, they don't take time to progress it. There's not really much in the way of development there. Like, it feels like the character flips a switch for no reason. But at the same time, there's a lot of, and I'm kind of this viewpoint a little bit more, where, like, there is a realization that sinks in. And it doesn't have to be such a gradual thing. I think for a lot of people, when they go see movies, they want it to be drawn out more because they want it to feel more natural. But a lot of the times people don't work that way.
Dude, that's the most natural I've ever felt a scene filled with anxiety and regret ever being.
Right.
Like, I've never seen, because most of the time, like, it's in slow motion or it's drawn out or there's some sort of dialogue that's prepared you for it. Like, when he gets in there and, like, he's just in his own headspace, like, I've been in that world before where your adrenaline is pumping so much and it's not out of, like, fear or nervousness. It's more so of a realization of, oh, like, fuck, like, I just did this.
Yeah.
Like, imagine, like, if you were on TV and, you know, imagine, like, just 13 million people watching and you did something dumb or something that you regret. You know how much would just be pumping through your veins? Because now all of a sudden it's not just one person you're talking to thinking about it. 13 million people judging you. You know, and when that hits, you're just in your. I didn't know if he was going to finish out the speech. Like, I was like, so like, oh fuck, like, what's he going to do? Like, this just like, he just ended the war and he's not even like really even happy about it. Like, he doesn't even know what to think because like all of a sudden like his whole idea just came to realization and it did end the war. But it's like, great, what's next?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's coursing through his veins. You know, like, and that's I thought it was beautifully and elegantly done.
That's
and
a
I
great
loved
scene.
it. And I love that they took the foot stomping leading up to pushing to the bomb.
Yeah.
As part of that, like, that excitement of everyone's rah-rahing for him and cheering for him, and then they reverse it out and suck it out when he's in it, and it's no longer cheering or chanting. It's just him and his own like, oh, we did it. You know, and then it just goes back and everyone's going nuts and you don't hear anything because that's how it goes, you know.
But dude, Mac, that scene was bad because the flags that they're waving are they have all the 50 when we didn't have all that our flag didn't look like that, Mac. The whole movie's ruined. 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I thought it's like great if we're pulling quips. Like, I'm glad that I want to get like someone that builds bombs that gets in here is like, this is why that bomb's fucking fake as hell.
Yeah, right.
You know, and then being like, oh no.
Essentially, what Oppenheimer made in this scene is just the equivalent of a giant toaster.
Yeah, yeah. Like, no,
okay, cool, man.
His just how he is portraying everything. I mean, he did a really good job. I'm not taking anything away from him. I think
I really liked him too.
My biggest thing I told, you know, I was talking to people about is, you know, you walk into a bar and you pitch this idea and it's like, if I get 10 people to buy into this, like, I'm making it. Is there 10 people in a bar that goes, this sounds like it's going to keep me invested and interested and it will be really exciting? You know, like, no, you're not, no one's hopping in on this. So for him to take these events and make it as, you know, I don't want to use the word exciting because it really wasn't. Like, it's really well done.
Well, they're captivating.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it holds you on long enough to points, but
yeah.
I mean, we'll get into I don't want to say the bad, but gripes I had with it.
Cool. What'd you think of, I really liked Robert Downey Jr. in this movie. Like, I thought I would have more of an issue with some of the casting in this film, specifically him, watching him being, I'm not going to be able to like disassociate him from Iron Man. Like, I was kind of worried that after like so long of playing that character, like I wouldn't have been able to recognize him. But thankfully, that's not the case. Yeah, thankfully, he plays this character super well.
Have you seen earlier movies with Robert Downey?
Shaggy Dog with Tim Allen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. I watched. So I've seen so many of the Marvel fucking films, dude. He's in a movie, U.S. Marshals, which isn't like a great film. It's a cheeseburger to me. I love it. But even him in that, he play like he's a good actor. Is what I'm saying. Like he's a good actor. So I had no fear of.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Like, I was just worried for me personally, would I be able to like disassociate
prosthetics and the hair, you know, all that shit going into you'll be it like that.
But it was great. I thought he was excellent.
He did a great job, I'm assuming, of portraying that individual, Louis Strauss. So
I love the way he spoke too.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. There was a certain dialect that he had that was very fun, and like he leaned into the role.
It started getting more menacing as the movie went along.
That was one of the things I didn't like was the fucking, you know, like, we're gonna do the flip the script. Like, you have to do it in a courtroom drama, but I hate when they just like that flip was more of a flip than what Oppenheimer went through, in my opinion. You know, there were things like kind of leading up to it, and he softballed it in there, and then all of a sudden it just like, boom, hammer it. We're on the dark side. This is why we're doing it.
I can kind of get that. There's some things about this movie that feel very a biopic-y, for lack of a better word, like things that you would often see in other biopics that you're like, okay, they kind of gotta do this now with it, I guess. Like, I've seen this 1,000 times before.
Dude, the writing in this thing I didn't think was all that great.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's a lot of... I love the dialogue, but the scene to scene with the situations and what the scenes call for.
Scene logistics.
That's
what he called it. Eggers called it. Scene logistics.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the scene logistics and everything going on, it did feel like it was going into those territories of, like I said, stereotypical biopic. You expect these types of elements to be in this movie because of previous biopic movies that you've seen before.
Yes.
So it starts to become tropey, a little bit of a cliche, like the flip the script in the court scene, or the many different turnarounds that Oppenheimer as a character has in the meeting room, like the board room where he's like being kind of interrogated. And
yes.
There's like different things that happen to where like, oh, it's looking to be like on his side, and like, oh, nope, it's going back down. Like they're really grilling him this time. It's like, oh, his wife is in, but we don't expect her to do well because she's drunk. But then, oh, she actually fucking nails it. And no one expected her to because she's fucking plastered. And it's like,
well, Andy cheated on her with like 8 different women.
That too.
Yeah.
But all that to say is that, yes, it does do a lot of those same things that like you would expect from like a biopic or a movie based on a real person. It's like, I mean, they got to make it exciting somehow, so they just fall back on those old reliable things.
Yes. Which annoyed me.
Yeah.
Annoyed me greatly.
Which I understand. I absolutely understand completely.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was something that bothered me as much, but I definitely recognize that it was there.
Well, it's one of those things where, like, you know, tropes, cliches, however you want to, you know, that if a good actor overcomes it, like, yeah, it fits in, but they do a good job of either redefining or just elevating, which, you know, and depending on the subject matter, like, yeah, I think it all kind of, it all depends, right? But I don't, in this one, like, I didn't feel like it did, you know, and I think that's why it stood out even more to me. But it's hard to say, too, because as we sit here and talk about it, I'm like, oh, I guess I like that. I like that. I think there was probably about 3 actors I really liked in this, and everything else I could care less about. You know, 4.
So let me guess what they are.
Okay.
Cillian Murphy.
Yes.
RDJ.
Yes.
Matt Damon.
Yes.
And Benny Safdie.
He was all right. And I talked to some people about it, and I did like him, and then all of a sudden they had a real negative thing to say about him, and I was like,
Emily Blunt.
God, no.
You didn't like Emily Blunt?
It's not her fault. She just had to play. She was typecast, and I felt like she just played the drunk scorn woman. And I was like, that she really had no depth to her character.
Yeah.
0 depth whatsoever. No, do you want me to just tell you?
Yes.
All right. Oh shit, who was I just thinking about that popped into my head that's now gone? Josh Hartnett.
Which one was he?
Josh Hartnett was a professor when he first gets in there. He's like, we're separating atoms, or we're doing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And he played the reason why I loved him so much is because he played like hey, we're friends. I really respect you as a colleague, and I think you have great insights, but I don't want you bringing your political bullshit in here. So, like, to separate that, like, and I'll protect you as best I can because I respect you and everything that you do. I don't necessarily agree with you, but, like, he was always of that vein, a lot of, like, very respectful. You know, I kept saying respect, but he did. Like, and it came out as genuine.
Respectful, but you could tell what he was feeling exactly just based on, like, the expression on his face.
Well, he came in there. He's like, hey, you know, no one says that you bring politics into the classroom. And he's like, well, I haven't joined the political party. I'm just curious in the ideas about it. He goes, well, I don't get, here's an idea, erase it. You know, like, but he did a really good job. Like, they remained friends. And I think he even protected him in some of the hearings.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were the 4 that anytime they were really on screen, I was like, and Cillian's always on the screen, you know.
Yeah, with regards to Florence Pugh.
No, all right. Go ahead.
You just want to skip it?
No, go ahead, because one of my gripes.
It is kind of a gripe for me because I do really like her, and I think that she plays the character well, but she's not in it a whole ton, and it doesn't feel like a lot of what she is in. It just kind of feels, I don't know, repetitive, a little bit goofy.
Erotic?
Right? Like 50 Shades of Oppenheimer.
Oh, my God.
Dude,
I literally was like, Christopher Nolan had to have something with her, or Cillian wrote her in, because I was like, none of this makes sense to why she has to do this.
I am become death, destroyer of worlds, he said as she rode on top of him.
Dude, so that, I was telling my people that book that she like grabs and was like, what's this?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently it's like it's a highly regarded book in the Buddhist lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about self-discipline and integrity, and I don't want more big words than I could probably come up with. So it was supposed to be like, I think, a little bit of a statement about, hey, this guy is so, and self-discipline isn't the right word, but highly regarded in his principles and what he's able to come up with, right? That even she was able to like break him.
Mm-hmm.
Probably why she fucking wrote him. All of it. You trim her out of that film, you save a half hour and make it a 2.5 hour film.
Mm-hmm.
Her character felt like it really did nothing for me.
I can see the importance of her though, because obviously she ties back into the communist struggles and the accusations that he faces, which lead to a lot of the conflicts later in the movie.
You don't think there's enough people in there that they don't have to have her in there? They could have gave Chevrolet a bigger fucking role than
Chevrolet.
Chevrolet. Yeah, that was the guy's name. Robert Chevrolet.
Was it? Oh, I thought you were making fun of Timothy Chalamet again.
No. Dude. Yeah. Haken. Oh, Jefferson Hall. He was a guy in Black Swan, I think.
Okay.
Anyways, he was in Tenet as well. Oh, he must be a Nolan guy. Guys that are dudes.
Guys that are Nolan dudes.
I don't know. It's Haakon. So however you want to go with that, Chevrolet.
Gotcha.
But he was the one that when they got, his brother brought him to the Communist Party, and he was the one that he was like, oh, he's a professor in French literature, and then started talking about some of the ideas. And when Emily Blunt was too drunk to take care of the kid, he's like, I'm not asking you to take the kid, but take the kid.
Yeah.
Don't know when I'll be back. That was him. Okay, so here you go, Kyle. I just gave you a name from it, right? A guy that actually had a decent sized role. Couldn't pick it up. How many fucking characters are in here that you could do that with? You didn't even. Josh Hartnett was in it, and it was like, I don't remember his character. I still don't remember it.
I think that's why I kind of want to watch it again, just to really like get a better idea of what the fuck each character means.
Ernest Lawrence was Josh Hartnett, by the way.
Okay, what each character means and like their relation to the story, and like Oppenheimer as a character.
Yes.
And get a better understanding of the story with it, which is why I think I don't have too much of an issue with Florence Pugh and her inclusion in the movie. I can see like how it's corny and goofy, like just the execution of it, like as she's riding on top of him and he's saying, I am become death, destroyer of worlds.
Corny and goofy. What did she do to progress the story? Like that. She wasn't the only one that was affiliated with the Communist Party.
She had sex with him 2 times, and then she committed suicide.
Yes. And it made him feel bad, and he had to tell his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was it.
Yeah.
Like, I
feel like it has more of a, obviously, like, the communist stuff, but, like, it has also, like, kind of a psychological implication on him, too. Just kind of makes him self-reflect a little bit about...
I took it more as it was a look at him being a human and his faults and able to relate with sort of that mistakes that have been made with certain parties. But like even at that, like, come on.
Yeah, I didn't mind it too much really. I thought it was okay. I mean, obviously I want to see it again, but get another perspective on it.
Yeah. No, the biggest gripe I had, and we talked about it with the Island of Dr. Moreau, is when you're introducing characters with their names, and you're expected to retain that information so that when the story progresses, you're able to pick up. Dude, I didn't know Chevrolet's name was that name until the fucking last scene when they're just naming people, and they were showing, they'd re-go back to the characters. His name got brought up so many fucking times, and it's like, Who is this character? What one was he? I don't remember.
Yeah, unless they say it repeatedly, like Levi, like Louis Strauss. I almost said Levi Strauss, like the fucking jeans.
Yeah.
Unless they say it repeatedly like that, or it's an actual big historical figure that you recognize just on their own, like Einstein or fucking Truman.
That's it.
You're not going to remember the name. And it's funny because I was talking to a coworker about this. Shout out to Drew. He told me that he thinks the reason that they had such an ensemble cast with a lot of recognizable people is because Nolan knew that people weren't going to be able to retain a lot of those people's names, like the characters' names. So he cast a lot of notable celebrities so that you would remember the celebrity's name at the very least. Because if he casts some like Joe Blow nobody's gonna remember anything about him, his like actor name or character name or anything.
Yeah.
At the very least, you know that Matt Damon plays that guy.
No, that's what I'm saying. You don't. Like if you don't remember Leslie,
but you know that it's Matt Damon at the very least.
That's what I'm saying. I do agree with that because it makes it easier when someone says, "You remember Leslie Gross?" Was like, "No, I don't." Who was it? And you go, "That's Matt Damon." Then it's like, "Oh,
yeah." And that's kind of like the line of thinking there.
I understand that, and look, I'm not gonna sit here and bastardize Nolan on this because like he makes these films with intent and says either you keep up or you won't. I'm gonna make my fucking film, you know. So it's put onto the audience to do it. I'm gonna say this. I went into this thing thinking it was more about the construction and the building of the bomb than it was about the courtroom drama. So like not to say I wasn't paying attention to names, but it's like you don't know that a guy that gets introduced in the first 20 minutes will be brought back up in the third act with all this shit going on. You know, Rami Malek, who had an instrumental role, which shit writing for him. His name's Hill, right? They kept saying Hill's going to defend us. Hill's going to do this. Dude, I think they call him Hill once leading up to that point, and he's only in 3 scenes, and one of which is Cillian Murphy going, "We won't need that," to an award-winning actor, by the way, you know, and he just nods. And then another one is he bats it down or out of his hands. He goes, "I said stop with it," you know, in a completely different scene. And then it's like Hill, and then finally he comes up there and it's Rami Malek, and I go, "Oh shit!" Like maybe I would have been paying attention to more of his body language when he was talking about it, you know, or I kind of figured, I was like, all right, who's a really like small ancillary character that's coming up? Like that's got to happen. And I landed on Rami Malek, you know, and then I was like, oh, like you could go one of 2 ways with it. Anyways, that's one of the biggest problems I have with it. And I think I have it with every film though. It's like when they don't do a good enough job, introducing the character, or at least having you have a purpose to remember it. Like Josh Hartnett's in this quite a bit, right? He's 3rd or 4th build on this. Like he's probably got the 4th most screen time out of anyone, and you couldn't tell me his name was Ernest Lawrence. Like that to me is like an issue.
I gotcha. But I get where you're coming from.
I'm also with you. I'd like to review it because I think it does help in with a little bit of the political drama going on when you actually can tie in the names and you can see where it's going.
I really like the build up, just the whole kind of through line that the movie has, because it feels very seamless to me. It feels like it just ebbs and flows, and it doesn't really feel like it gets held up by much of anything.
Right.
Like you get to see all these intertwining situations, but they're told in a cohesive enough way to where you can actually follow the events going on. Even if you don't remember all the characters that are involved in their names, you can at least tell where you're at and where the events are going, for the most part.
Yeah, yes, it's very I think there's an easy way to get sucked out of this thing. And if you do at any point, it's almost like a vacuum in space. Like you just be fucking pulled right out. Yeah.
Heaven forbid you go to piss during this film.
No. That was another thing too. They got to the bomb and I kind of had to go, not enough to where I was like, you know, but I'm like, I don't think I want to miss anything right now.
What do you think about the runtime? I wanted to ask. The 3-hour long.
Like I said, Florence Pugh, her whole thing could have got trimmed and I would have been fine. That's 15 minutes right there of shit that was just like whatever. You know? Some of the stuff with like some of the political workings, like it felt a little drawn out, and it felt like because of the writing, it really, this is what I think. I think I read somewhere that no one got handed this book, read it, fell in love with it, was like, I really would like to make a movie about this, like what happened, you know? And I think he tried to cram as much as he possibly could to be have an accurate portrayal of this guy's life and maybe how he viewed or his perspective on how Oppenheimer must have felt, with all of this going on, right? So it is, in terms of a 3-hour film, about as tight as you could get. Like
it goes by pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, there are, like I said, I mean, because I'm also voicing the opinions of others. There's that side of, if you get sucked out, it's really long. If you don't, and for me, there were times when it was really long and there were times when it wasn't. I don't think I didn't need to see him try to kill the professor at the beginning. I didn't need to see him talk to Kenneth.
I forgot that he was in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't need to see him meet the German scientists. Like, they're all kind of like leading up. Like, they could have easily did that with Strauss meeting him at Princeton or Cornell. And great view, isn't it? You know, and then them walking to meet Einstein and going over like, hey, didn't you meet so and so? Haven't you've talked with so and so? And then him kind of going, yes, in a brief time. He's and that's it. 5 minutes of dialogue. So I think this thing could have got trimmed, is what I'm saying. And I think that the parts that could have got trimmed were the ones that we really didn't need.
One of the things that kind of threw me off, and it's kind of a smaller thing, but it's like, oh, this doesn't feel too natural to me, is towards the end when Louis Strauss finds out that he didn't make cabinet and he wants to know who voted against him. And one of his advisors says, oh, some up-and-coming congressman from Massachusetts goes by the name of Kennedy.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, really? You're going to like do a fucking Avengers teaser in a Christopher Nolan movie?
I don't even know. What are they
with JFK?
You think Nolan's going to become like this historian buff now, making probably 200 million?
I don't think so, but to me, it felt like, I feel like this scene would have been like in a Marvel movie.
Sam will be happy to hear that. He had the same gripe.
And it's kind of funny to me that it's Robert Downey Jr. being told this.
Dude,
with how the scene plays out.
I'm telling you, man, Nolan, the filmmaking was superb, but the writing of this stuff is just, some of it is questionable.
I need to rewatch it. I think it's something that I don't entirely, I shouldn't say like I don't have an opinion on it, because I do, but it's one of those things where like I think I just need to watch it again in order to like really cement my feelings on it, because I like how it flowed. I loved the filmmaking, and I thought all the acting was great for the most part. Just all in all, really compelling to me. Like, even if I couldn't really follow along with all the characters, and like some of the writing was a bit tropey, it was enjoyable enough for me, and the filmmaking was impressive enough for me to kind of make up for those things. Yeah. And if I see it a second time, those things could get in the way more, or I could maybe not notice them nearly as much.
I think it aids the film when you have a base foundation of what's going on, and you're able, now that you like, when you like, oh, that's so and so. Now when they bring up those names in conversation, it's easier to follow events, and it's like you were saying, like events that take place, but like when they talk about an event within an event, that's what I wanted to know more about, or remember who affected what, or the conversations that were had, or how is this tied in. But yeah, no, without a doubt, I just, dude, like the Robert Kennedy thing, Rami Malek pretty much going like, if no one's followed along yet, Strauss is bad, Oppenheimer is good, he got robbed, Strauss is the one, like I was like, why the fuck, like you've taken us this far and then you just do that, and I felt bad for Rami Malek. I'm like, oh, he's the one that's got to do this, so that's what I'm saying. I think the filmmaking took more precedent over the writing did, and it was written to a point where he had to,
I don't think you're wrong,
and he had to take in effect that this is probably going to be, some people are going to watch this and not be able to follow it, so we have to have points and tropes built in, so that way even without the dialogue you understand where it's going and who's good and bad, and that's why it just kind of, sometimes that annoys me, and this one it annoyed me a little bit, and I don't fault him necessarily, because of what he's trying to get across and show us is so fucking profound. You're teetering a line, like how do you? I don't know if I could think of something else that's happened that had that much change on humankind, and being like, well, we're gonna film it without it having like, a lot of political mess going on, and a lot of ideas being floated around with really zero to no action, like, hey, we're going to make a film about NATO being formed. You know, like how exciting does that sound?
Are you looking forward to it?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to kind of keep up that pace, but he does it in this film really well. Like, that's the one thing I don't think at all this thing lets down. I think the only time it really lets down is if you get sucked out a little bit, and then it can, and then because now you're looking for those points, and then they really highlight it because you need to be told this is a good part, and when you're told that, you get annoyed but you've already also put yourself in the spot to not be able to foul, you know. So I got to see a little bit of both because I caught up at some points, and some points I was sucked out, and like I was like still trying to like the name thing bugged me so much.
I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I think we can start wrapping up. One thing that I did want to mention before we get into ratings.
Yes.
So the film prides itself, Christopher Nolan prides himself on not using any CGI in this film. And this movie, when it was shown in other countries, when Florence Pugh was laying there naked with her boobies hanging out, they CGI'd a black dress over Florence Pugh.
Really?
Yeah.
See-through?
No, it's like a completely black dress. Like, it might as well have been a black bar that's just covering her. Let me see if I can find it and I can show you. If you're listening to the video version of this on YouTube, I'll try to include a picture.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that...
Is it wildly distracting, or is it...
We'll see. I don't know. I don't think there's a video of it out. It's just a picture.
Yeah, there's a still. Someone grabbed it.
Yeah,
because they're illegally filming this film in the theater.
Let me see if I can find it. Black dress Oppenheimer. Yep. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really...
It almost just looks like a black blanket that's just covering her.
It's not bad, though. I mean,
well, I don't know how it looks in motion. It could
silk. That's what I... Well,
it could totally just be like the jankiest thing ever. But
yes,
yeah,
agreed. I'm sure Christopher Nolan's happy about that.
Oh, he's thrilled. He's like, "Oh, thank God." I was worried about this scene.
He'd have to be in talks with that part of like, or not necessarily him, but like
I don't know
maybe
how
not.
that.
I guess it's just up to the government.
I don't know how that works.
I don't
because
either.
Sometimes other countries just meddle with the content of film and try to pass it off.
I bet you no one told him, and he just is. But dude, he's swimming in a fucking sea of $100 bills.
He said, "As long is the movie making money?" Yes, Mr. Nolan is. Why the fuck do I care?
Yeah, exactly. Just made a film about some fucking nerd building the bomb, and it's gonna be bigger than Avatar.
Yeah, and we're worried about boobs.
Yeah.
Get the shit out of my face.
I definitely, dude, I'm not gonna lie. I definitely felt like Alfred Hitchcock sort of tone there. I'm like, I don't know why this is in here, but when they get into the one hearing and she just is on top of Cillian Murphy, and I'm like, this doesn't fit in with anything at all. Like, it wasn't like I was uncomfortable or anything. I think I was just more annoyed of like, I don't know what type of grab we're going for, because like it doesn't fit in with anything. And then she's just staring at Emily Blunt, and it's like at no point was Emily Blunt ever part of the perspective of Cillian, like, you know, Oppenheimer. Like we know how she's feeling. I don't know if we need to have her, like, Florence Pugh wink at her and see her, like, totally distraught. Like,
yeah,
it felt tasteless.
She just flips her off, gives her the middle finger.
Might as well have. And then I was like sitting there saying, you know, people made a good point. I was like, could you imagine, like, they call it Cillian Murphy, all right, Florence, hop in here, and like they're just doing the scene and that's going on. I was like, how awkward is that for her? I mean, it felt totally shameful.
Yeah,
you know, but I think they probably did it and then they CGI'd him in, or edited him into the film because you can't CGI.
Right, none of that here unless you're in China. Then go for it. What would we rate this?
You're
I guess
first.
I'm first. Yeah. Honestly, like, this was really enjoyable for me. I love the through line of it. It flowed really well. The pacing was great. Even if like a lot of the character names I couldn't remember and keep track of all that well, I think that the events and the way they're portrayed and the acting is just really great to kind of make up for it. Great music. Love the way it looks. This is a 9 out of 10 for me.
So I'll say me and Sam, because I'm going to have this on record now. We're opposite. We did find a lot of overlap with some of our views on it. Maybe I won't give his score. I don't know. I don't want to shame him on this thing. And he'll stand up for it. I mean, he did it throughout the weekend. So I'll go over mine.
Okay.
I did not like the writing. Some of the character stuff that was going on, it's just hard to keep up with events. Filmmaking, stunning. I was so looking forward to the bomb, and it did not let down. Thought the score, did I say score? The sound design was fantastic. I mean, this is, like I said, I think this is his best shot film. I gave this a 9 out of 10 because it's not
what I expected.
I know, that's why I keep telling people too, because you'll hear the gripes about it, but that doesn't so when I give out my scores, I'm not going to take away stuff just because I found one problem with the film. I mean, you have to encompass all of the film within itself.
Of course.
The Florence Pugh shit, yeah, I mean, I could have gone without it, but it didn't take away from the film. I'm not like that ruined it. She was bad. I mean, she did a great job, so I think on a second viewing, this would probably really solidify my 9 out of 10. That's why I want to watch it again, because I like courtroom dramas. I love being able to take in certain elements and pit them against each other. The whole science versus politics, science versus nature, science versus God. We're talking about and something so profound of what he did that has changed the world. It was done in a great lens. And that's why I don't have any issues with it. I like the actors. I just felt like, for me, if I knew what actor they were talking about, I would have been able to see their motivations a lot better, and it would really help me out to understand what their angle was. And I think that's what takes it away. But without the film itself is just about Prometheus changing the world.
Yeah,
and they did a great job of it, and you feel it for Cillian as he goes along. And I mean, like I said, I got done and I was like, I got to Wikipedia this because I'm really fascinated. You know?
that's one thing too that I didn't mention, but that I also really love, and you kind of touched on it too when you were just saying it, is the opposing elements, the science versus art, science versus God, the different sort of mythological elements that are sprinkled throughout it.
Yeah,
obviously the reference to Prometheus. And I just thought that was really well handled too.
He does it in a good touch. I mean, like I'm saying, it's not the writing isn't all bad. I'm not like, this writing sucks from fucking start to finish. There's just certain points that I'm like, oh my god. But it's a 3-hour film. That's why I think this would, for me, would have been a really high. This is closer to an 8. I had it at an 8, and I was like, I don't know. I'm gonna be talking about this and thinking about this thing, and I'll probably watch it again. And I'm like, I bet you this could be a film that at some point I'm like, I just watched from minute mark 36 up into minute mark an hour 58.
Yeah.
And I think that's usually if you find some really good stuff in films like that, they sit high on my rating. And I just think on a second viewing it'll do much better. So I don't remember where I was going with that, but that's what I have.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
And that was our Oppenheimer discussion. And speaking of discussion, we got an important discussion to have.
Oh, dude, I'm stoked.
So we didn't get any questions or answers for a question I posed, which is fine. It's cool. It's all right. I'm not angry at you guys. Maybe step up your game a little bit sometimes, but you can't help it.
Hey, we can pivot.
You get tired. Sometimes you don't want to do the heavy lifting. You give it to us, and that's okay. We got you covered.
Love it.
Because we decided instead to do a top 5 list of guys who are dudes.
Yes.
And this is something that we've referenced before multiple times.
Always.
Something that we've talked about constantly.
Dude, there's probably 3 guys that could be honorable mentions just in Oppenheimer alone.
Oh, probably. I'm thinking of one right now. And I might actually put him in a ancillary slot now that I'm thinking about it.
Oh.
But basically what this means is we each made our own individual lists of top 5 guys who are dudes, meaning we take actors that we think are great actors that don't necessarily get the mainstream limelight or are kind of underrated in terms of the audience perception of them. Yeah,
so the way I would describe it is if you were in a conversation with, a film, someone that likes film, not necessarily an avid film watcher, and you were to drop the name, would they recognize that person right away, or would you have to name another film that they've been in to help them out to understand who they are? And a little bit more goes into it, but that's probably the best way to describe it, because I think a lot of household names, you could find a moviegoer that you could drop that name and say, Brad Pitt, blah blah blah, and they go, oh yeah, like I loved him, But then you can name, and they go, well, what's he been in now? Where was he at?
Yeah.
And who the fuck cares if they appreciate it or don't like that guy? It don't matter because it's not one of their guys that are dudes.
Right. It's our guys that are dudes.
Yes.
And we're gonna go over our guys that are dudes. So, did you want to go first and read through your whole list, and then we can go to mine?
I think you go first. I think we got to go one by one.
One by one?
Yeah, you go your 5 and then my 5. The only reason why I want to go last is because, it's kind of my list.
So I go through my whole list and then you go through your whole list?
No.
Or we take turns?
You name your number 5 guy.
Number 5 guy, okay.
Yeah.
So...
And you can just look at it and then just pick a guy, because I don't remember if you told me that you got a...
I don't really have any particular order.
Yeah.
So...
Just look at it and pick out the number... Who's your least favorite, most favorite guy on there?
Well, the lowest one I have right now, because I have 6 of them listed.
Yes.
So this
hold off on the honorable mention just in case I swipe one.
Okay. So the one on the lowest of the top 5, I've got Paul Dano.
Ooh.
Paul Dano, I think, is a really good guy that's a dude.
Yeah.
Like, everything I've seen him in has been really great. He's like an awesome supporting actor. The only really main thing I've seen him in, like, he's played the main character, Swiss Army Man, and he's great in that.
Right.
But that's a movie that not a whole lot of people are exposed to.
Right.
And I think that he just has an incredible ability to captivate me.
Yes.
Whenever I watch him in a film.
I think that's a good call. I'm really interested to hear your guys.
I'm interested to hear your guys, guy. Dude.
You know what? So yeah, I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna hold off on. So I'm not gonna have a 5A, 5B. I got 5. I guess I'll do my honorable mentions when we're done.
Okay.
So number 5 for me, Jesse Plemons.
Oh, that's a good pick.
I don't think he's been in anything he's been in some mainstream stuff. One of the things that I talked about as I was trying to figure out this and having the help from others was Oscar nominations. If they've had an Oscar nomination. I don't really think that an Oscar nomination puts you into A-list acting. Mm-hmm. I do think that there are times when you stumble into a good role.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a couple nominations, obviously the Academy, and one of my guys had to get left off because of that, and I still don't agree with it. But, if you've been nominated for one film, like you've had one good film, right?
You get a little bit of recognition.
Yeah, but anything that Jesse Plemons, like he's in, like you're going to be in good hands, mm-hmm. and he's going to do a pretty bang up job getting the point across.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about Jesse Plemons is I really like him as an actor, and I think he plays the roles that he's given excellently. Mm-hmm. All that to say is I don't think I've really seen him in a lot of stuff that has a ton of range. Like, to me, he plays a lot of similar characters, and he's very good at playing those characters. Yeah. But there's not a whole lot in, like, I don't know if I'll ever see him play like a super villain, or like a drug dealer, or like I guess drug dealer would be a bad example because of Breaking Bad.
But he's played so he was in Fargo. Mm-hmm. He's been in The Power of the Dog. He was in
I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
I'm Thinking of Ending Things, right? He was in Game Night, which he was fantastic in, and then he was in a horror film called Antlers. So I mean, he plays a certain character, but he definitely fits his characters to the tone of the film.
Oh yeah.
Like the reason why I actually put him on here is because he's the best part of Game Night. Game Night's a comedy, and he was the funniest part in Game Night, and he only had 3 minutes. Have you ever seen Game Night?
No.
It's one of the... Yeah.
I get what you mean, though, to your credit, because even though they're kind of similar characters in Breaking Bad, it's a very kind of different sort of character versus what he plays in I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Yeah.
Versus what he plays in Power of the Dog. Like,
dude, he's not very robust with what he does. He plays a very soft character, but they have all different motivations.
Yes. Yeah. different flavors of the same sort of food.
Right. So, and I'm not going off and saying that these guys aren't going to be like rangy. Like it's just I know that what they do really well. So they could be a one
totally
trick,
fine with me.
Yeah, they could be a one trick pony. They could be a very, one guy. I'll bring his name up too, and I'll see if he could have made the list. I don't think he could have, but he would have been my rangiest guy. Okay,
so I guess it's my turn again.
Mm-hmm.
My next one that I have is Donald Gleason. Donald Gleason.
Yes.
I really like Donald Gleason.
Because I was looking at his dad at getting on here, and I was like, what's his son's? And I always get his son mixed up with another guy.
Like, it's almost kind of similar to Jesse Plemons for me, where like he plays very kind of similar type characters, but the situations that those characters are in and like the different sort of kind of events that take place with those characters is like he plays them very well.
Yeah.
Like Ex Machina, he's great in.
Yes.
I love him in The Revenant. Like I think he's kind of underrated in The Revenant just because
I think he's underrated in a lot of the films he's fantastic.
Yeah, like About Time, the time travel romantic comedy movie. Like he's awesome in that one. Frank, we watched him in Frank. Like he plays that character. He plays that type of character very well in those movies. And he's also like a lot older than he looks. Like he's in his 40s and he looks like he could still be in his early 30s.
Yeah, probably helps out with his acting choices.
I think so. He's prone to playing those kind of like geeky character type of.
But the worst movie that he ever got put in, and I feel bad that like he took it just for the paycheck. I have to imagine the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah,
he got thrust into like the role of the really trying to be a menacing general or something like that, and he's not very. That's not his world.
Yeah,
he's actually in what would be funny was he's actually in Dread.
He is He's like a meek little henchman character that's on the computer.
He's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He's like one of the. He's a very recognizable character from that film.
Yeah, I haven't seen his Star Wars stuff, so luckily I'm not tainted by.
Yeah, I felt bad for him because like they're like we're trying to be self-aware, so we're gonna be self-aware. This is gonna be really funny, and so he's got all the jokes to do it. And it's like it
just doesn't work.
He's a villain general, like you can't be humorous while you're trying to be menacing.
Yeah.
So, anyways, you got Domo. It's funny because these are gonna pair up well. My number 4 is Scoot McNairy.
Okay.
He is.
I know he's in Killing Them Softly. That might be the only thing I've seen him in.
Frank.
Oh yeah, he's
the drugged out freaking manager that's like we're making $50 a night. Everything it costs us. It costs $40 to drive here and go there.
Yeah. Okay.
He is also he's in Argo. Here's how I haven't
seen Argo in so long.
He's in a movie I really like called Monsters. 12 Years a Slave. He was in. I guess he was in Blonde. I don't really remember him in that.
I don't remember him in that either. I just remember all the fetuses.
Yeah. So I'm trying to go through. I'm trying to see. Like I've seen
He was fetus number 2.
He was in Fargo, Gone Girl. He's in a lot of films, and you don't really recognize that it's Scoot McNairy because, like you said, Killing Them Softly. Mm-hmm. He does a great job. He's a I hope I'm right. An Irish actor, Scottish actor.
McNairy sounds like an Irish name.
Irish actor, okay. Yeah. But he does a really good job about fitting in, in films. Like I said, like if I said that to you, like you'd probably, oh yeah, like you get one, and then all of a sudden, like there's probably a couple films you've seen him in, and like just don't recognize.
That I just don't remember.
He was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he played one of the bad Western guys with Leonardo DiCaprio. I can't remember. I think he had a couple lines.
He's got like a Western vibe, Scoot McNairy.
Yeah, well, with the
kind of gruff,
really patchy.
Yeah.
Dude, So, anyways, he's awesome. I love him, and sometimes he's usually like anything he's in. It's always within like these 10 minutes of the film, but it's really good 10 minutes that you can you remember well. Well, I shouldn't say it like that, but that you remember.
You recognize him when he pops up, but
And then you get excited and you go, that's Scoot McNairy. Or you're like the old lady that goes, ah, yes, I
Plus-
know that.
points to you. His name is just fun to say.
Yes.
Scoot McNairy.
Yeah.
Scoot McNairy.
Yeah, I hope I'm saying it right, but yes.
And you are saying it right.
Perfect.
I think I am good to go next with mine. Kind of on the same level as Scoot McNairy, I guess, for you. Riz Ahmed.
Yes.
I really like Riz Ahmed.
Sound of Metal.
Sound of Metal, Nightcrawler.
Yeah. Oh, man, he's a great Nightcrawler.
It's great. I want to rewatch that movie.
He hasn't been. He came
I
out.
think that was the first movie I saw him
He
in.
directed an Oscar last year or produced?
He, I think, directed a short film.
That won.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I know it was
Or it was-
nominated. I think he won it, though, because I've been like, where's he at?
Yeah. He's really good. The only thing that I've seen him in that I don't really care for is Venom, the first Venom movie.
Yeah.
But you can tell he's just kind of like, he's there for a paycheck.
Oh, yeah. Some
Just
of the
like
guys,
most of the people in that movie.
don't you have a hard time like kind of picking out guys that you're like, oh, they just want money, and then they're just not in anything, and you find out they're really passionate about, you know, film being art and expressing like political opinions or getting untold stories out there for people to understand in different perspectives. Like he'd be a guy that if like you're like he's gonna fall off and just direct all these like really I don't want to say artsy, but like movies that are going to change kind of like your viewing on how you see a situation. I'd be like, no, I can't see that.
Yeah.
You know, just because, I mean, some of the stuff that I've seen him in, he was in another really good HBO miniseries about a guy that gets caught up. He has a one night stand and gets wrongfully accused, and he's like trying to defend himself. And he ends up getting a really drunk lawyer who's played by, Jesus from The Big Lebowski.
John Turturro.
Yeah, who could also...
He could have been a guy who's a dude.
Yeah, I don't know. He might have won an Oscar for something.
True. I feel like he was pretty big in like the late 90s, early 2000s.
He was.
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't need to go down that road.
We won't go down that
Honorable
road.
mention, John Turturro.
Right. I think you're up next.
Perfect. So my number 3, I'm going with Kurt Russell.
Okay. Interesting.
So...
Are we specifying it to a certain decade, or are we just whole Kurt Russell? Because he was pretty big in the 80s.
He was, with a lot of cult movies.
Okay.
So I had the conversation with Sam because I said Kurt Russell, and he goes, I don't know if you can do it, because he is a name.
That is the one that you've read so far that I've been the most like, I don't know about that.
Right. And I definitely think that there is a time and place for Kurt Russell. Now, where history's gone, I don't know if that name's as recognizable now. And I'm not saying like I want to pull up people from the 70s and start throwing them out, but like those prominent actors maintain that kind of pedigree. Whereas, and I'm not saying Kurt Russell hasn't, but in terms of like his movie success, it's always in Past the Fact, right? He's been in some big films, but like not necessarily blockbusters. All right. I mean, we were trying to kind of come up with some stuff where it was like, well, what do you think he's most notably in? Like, let's take The Hateful Eight, for example, right?
Yeah.
You hear Kurt Russell, you kind of have an idea. You see him on screen, you go, oh, that's that guy, right? And then the action unfolds, and you know. It's kind of like, yeah, you know, you talk a little bit about him. So I don't think that I don't think he's been enough big stuff either, like recently, but also like when he was coming out with films. Oh, it's a Big Trouble in Little China 2001, but that's got to be the remastered version.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
No. Breakdown, Executive Decision, Stargate. Like Tombstone could be like a big one. I think he was probably first built on that, but I don't think that really stands in the test of time. You know, so
I mean, the thing that funny enough, the thing that I usually think about when I hear Kurt Russell is The Thing.
Right, but then it's like name that second movie.
I think it's mostly because like you've recommended movies for me to watch, but like I think of like a lot of his 80s stuff. So like The Thing, Escape from New York.
Cult movie.
Big Trouble in Little China, like a lot of John Carpenter movies.
Well, and I think there are a lot of movies that gain notoriety later on, which is like, for me, I'm like, you can't take out that guy because at that time it wasn't that big. So like if you reflect on it back, like probably 10 years ago, like there'd be a lot more people that'd be like, oh yeah, Kurt Russell, you know. Where I think now he's just kind of in a lot of stuff with the like lower, I don't want to say star power, but kind of like his involvement in the movie. Like he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, he was fantastic. He's only in it for 4 minutes.
Yeah,
you know. And I think that's kind of where it falls into, is like a lot of people now would probably be like, I think I know. Isn't that the guy married to Goldie Hawn?
It's shit. Like the thing that I can think of most recently that he's been in is Guardians 2. Mm-hmm. And like like the Netflix Christmas movies where he plays Santa, but like,
yeah, see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
yeah. Like it's, you know, I don't really. It's Riz Ahmed. You know, he was the bad guy. Like it's like, I don't even think about him being in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
you especially, I wouldn't expect to think about Guardians 2 when you hear the name Kurt Russell.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And I can't fault him for gaining notoriety with cult classics now versus where he was at then. You know, and it's, I don't know, maybe I'm spinning this thing into a sense where it makes sense, but like I don't think I think he's in our parts, especially the Neon Crew Mafia. Like I think he's more syndicated in that than he would be just like as an average moviegoer. You know, and
he's talked about quite a bit in our circle.
Yes, and I also want to say this too. I wasn't trying to get too hipster with this stuff. I actually wanted to pick people where I was like, I want to see movies that they're in, and I genuinely get excited because I could come up with names that would be like, oh yeah, that guy was in this, and I liked him in 2 other films. So,
all right, I think I'm up next. My number 2.
Yes.
This is going to be an interesting one, I think.
Okay.
Michael Fassbender.
Kyle, you might have to swipe it.
Why is that?
He has been... Okay.
So, I know where you're going with this. He's been in a lot of shit.
No. I love Fassbender. I had him as an honorable mention. He was he was going to be my number 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's funny because he's my number 2.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I had him up there. There's 2 guys, and you'll hear who the other guy is that's controversial. But
so, can I make my case before you suggest a swap?
Yes.
I think that while he's been in a lot of shit and he doesn't make the best movie choices, the good movies that he's in, I think he's great in. Yeah. So, like, Inglourious Bastards, that whole fucking scene in the basement,
dude, you amazing. Don't need to pitch fast. Fassbender's my guy.
And, of course, Shame, which I watched probably, like, over a year ago now.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love that because of his performance in that movie. And I think that he's almost kind of like an Idris Elba in a way where he's a great actor, and I know he's a great actor, but he just doesn't choose a lot of great movies to be in.
No, I'm not, dude. I could like I watched The Counselor. Like I was high on. So since Inglourious came out, I've loved him. And he's in 300. Saw Shame with him. There's another movie directed by God. I can never remember his name, and he shares the same with someone else. Hunger.
Okay.
Prometheus. No, the reason why I took him off, and it was the hardest one to do because I really feel like there's an argument because I don't think you could walk up to people and say Michael Fassbender and they'll be like, oh yeah, so he's been in 3 X-Men movie, right?
Yeah,
playing second bill. He's been nominated twice for Academy Awards. All right, and then what really got me, and this is what I said, all right, I can't. All right. He was in Assassin's Creed. Now,
yeah,
Assassin's Creed wasn't great. I haven't seen it, so it might be great. I don't know.
I don't think it is.
Okay. The budget for Assassin's Creed was?
Is this where I guess? I'm going to guess $120 million.
125 mil.
Shit, I was so close.
You were. That was a great guess. And it was built as a blockbuster. So they were using Fassbender's name as a way to promote people to get there. So,
okay.
Unfortunately for him, it didn't work out. And that's probably why no one knows his name now. But, like, he had that going for him. So that's why I'm telling I had to look up Assassin's Creed to see how much it was made for, to see if I could put him on this fucking thing, because I would have had him on there.
The other two I could have maybe argued like against, like the award nominations or the X-Men movies. But you make a good case with Assassin's Creed.
Well, it's Assassin's Creed and 2 nominations. Like, 1's all right. 2, people are recognizing that you're doing a really good
It's like,
work.
hey, look at this guy.
Yeah.
He's getting up there. Oh, a little fast bendy boy. Well, I do have a backup.
Okay.
And my backup is David Dastmalchian. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right.
Oh, yeah. He was just in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's in Oppenheimer. He's in a lot of Denis Villeneuve movies.
Yeah.
Very minor characters that he plays, but he's fucking memorable just because of how he looks and how he acts.
Yes.
Like
yes.
Prisoners.
Yes.
He's one of the most memorable parts of Prisoners
Yeah,
for me.
he's in it for all of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he leaves such an impact. Just he's so fucking creepy, and I just love the characters that he plays.
He was, yeah. He's
Blade Runner 2049.
Yes.
Dune. He's in Dune.
That's Dune's the first one I went to when you said that, because I don't, but he played like one of the weird secretary guys.
He was basically Baron Harkonnen's right hand man.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yeah. He was Polka Dot guy and the new
Suicide Squad. I still need to see that.
Oh, really?
I heard he's really good in it.
He's fun.
Yeah.
That's a good poll.
Well, thank you. I had a good backup, I like to think.
And I listen, I hate to do it with, he's absolutely a guy that should be a dude. But
Yeah. He should be, right? Honorable mention.
We have to have principles in this thing, and I think it's one of those things where, and I'm not trying to go back, because it's like almost the opposite with Kurt Russell, but you know,
all right. So you're number 2.
Frank. He was Frank, the titular Frank.
He was, yeah.
My number 2. My number 2 is Bill Paxton.
I understand that. I'm not going to contest it.
No, and
I can't contest it.
He's never gotten nominated. I mean, the closest you could say to a blockbuster, from my understanding, he was in Titanic, but he wasn't a main character in Titanic, so you can't fault him on that. And one of the bigger films that he's probably been a lead actor in was Twister, but I don't think that was billed as a blockbuster.
No.
You know, like, it's hard to kind of say Weather Guy chasing tornadoes is like the sweeping.
The last big movie I remember him being in is Edge of Tomorrow.
Yep. And once again, I mean, 3rd, 4th build, and he played the same, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime Paxton, he was a Nightcrawler, dude. He was so fucking good at Nightcrawler.
He's very good Nightcrawler.
Yeah, like, he's good. He's
Speaking of Riz Ahmed.
Yeah, right? Like, he was in True Lies. He plays the sleazy car salesman in True Lies. Like, he's kind of a guy, he's got, I don't want to say limited range. He's got range. It's just not in big time sweeping dramas, you know. So, anyways, my number 2 is Bill Paxton.
Okay. Rest in peace.
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna list my number 1, and this is for sure, out of everyone on this list, my number 1, and I feel like I'm gonna have to prepare myself to defend it, because you might be raising some eyebrows when I say his name.
All right.
Mads Mikkelsen.
No, that's I had him on there.
Let me make a case.
No, I'm not contesting it.
Oh, you're not?
No, I'm saying he's fine. I don't think I couldn't.
Oh, you're saying no, as in you're not going to contest it?
No, hell no, dude. Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen. Who the fuck are you gonna walk up to and say that to and be like, "Oh yeah, The Hunt"? Like, you can't do that.
Well, that was where my argument was going to be. Is that even though he's in a lot of blockbuster movies in the U.S. and he plays a lot of prominent characters in those movies, he's typecast to fuck as villain characters.
He does a great job.
He does a great job, but you don't really get to see the range that he can give to a movie when he plays different types of characters.
Right.
You get to see that range in Dutch movies that he's in. So, like, Another Round, he's fucking fantastic. The Hunt, he's fucking amazing. The second Pusher movie in the Pusher trilogy, he's the best part out of that whole entire thing, like, trilogy included. Like, he just stands out far and above all that stuff that he's in when it comes to his Dutch foreign films.
Yeah.
And obviously he gives a good performance when he's over here playing those villain characters. And we like seeing him play those villain characters. But at the same time, it's like, I really want to see him play something else. Well, good news, buddy. There's a whole plethora of Dutch movies out there that are just waiting for you to fucking watch them.
Get them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would have been my argument had you contested it.
I was gonna throw him on there, and I was like, there's just the.
I don't think he's nominated for a
no
lot of awards, really.
No, I don't think he. I mean, The Hunt's probably that's a foreign film, so it didn't get Oscar recognition.
I'm just thinking of American movies too, because he's not in a whole lot of like movies that get awards either over here. He's
a solid dude, and I don't think anyone would recognize him.
Oh, we didn't even mention fucking the movie with the motorcycle.
That's what I'm trying to.
Riders.
It's the Rider. It's the Freedom Riders or
Riders of Justice.
Riders of Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was sitting there. I wasn't gonna say anything because I couldn't think of the title. I could just see his face on there. He's got the beard. And
he's got the beard and shaved head.
Yeah. He's just standing there. Yeah. Riders.
He's just standing there menacingly.
Yeah. I loved him in that. I almost threw him on my list because when we were talking about Riders of Justice, or I think we might have been talking about Another Round. I said, I was like, that's a guy that's a dude. Mm-hmm. Like he would be, and well deserved. I don't know who I'd like to see more between him and Jesse Plemons on this. Probably him on the screen over Jesse Plemons, but like, the filmography speaks for itself, and you have to be able to like see some of those. And I think the foreign aspect kind of threw me. Like I don't know because I keep wanting to watch Another Round, and I still haven't pulled the trigger.
I think if you were to ask the average person in the U.S. who Mads Mikkelsen is, I think the most likely thing that they would point to by remembering him is the Hannibal show that he was on. Oh,
yeah. I was going to actually go with Casino Royale because this is a
that too.
Film podcast, not a TV podcast.
Cherry picking. But yes, that is a good answer also, is a Casino Royale. I forgot he was in that. He's in so many movies where he's the villain that they just kind of blur together.
Yeah, and it's not his fault. He gets his projects that he likes to do and he gets to make money on doing the American stuff where he just plays weird French villain or Dutch villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie Countryman, he plays the villain in that, but he's fucking great.
With Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
That might be a future recommendation. And that's one that Gideon really loves, that every time I watch it, I'm like, I don't know about it. But
really?
I think would make for a good discussion eventually.
Okay.
Maybe we can have him back on for it.
Yeah.
Choking up because I'm going to get emotional over your number one.
It's got to be, right?
Oh, boy. Oh, I feel like it should be obvious, but I can't think of it right now. I don't know why.
Well.
Oh, wait. I know. Patrick Wilson?
No.
Oh.
He was close. I told you he was close on the list, but I went through his filmography. I was like, there's no way I'm watching fucking the fourth Conjuring. Like, I like him, but like it gets saturated quickly or diluted, however you want to view it.
Mm-hmm.
No. This one is the most controversial pick I have. I've been teetering back and forth on is it acceptable or not. He falls to me in the same lines as Fassbender does. He only has one Oscar nomination. Oh, shit. Nope. I'm taking him off. I got to do it.
Well, you got to tell me who it was.
Tom Hardy.
You can't. Oh, yeah.
He's okay.
That's a stretch, my guy.
He's got so Venom, right? I'm like, all right, whatever. But then I looked up what it cost to make Mad Max. I forgot because I said if it's under $100 million, I'm not going to consider it a blockbuster, even though that's a lot of fucking money to fork out. But like under $100 million is like, all right, you're the intent isn't to get this thing off where everyone has nothing to do to go see it, right? Mad Max Fury Road costs $150. So
yeah, big budget.
I was like getting ready for the argument in my head, and I remember I looked that one up because I ruled out Fassbender. See, now you know what I stand. I fucking have principles. All right, so I'm taking them out. So shift everyone up. My number 5 is going to be a gentleman that I really like, and anytime he's in a film, it's like one of those things where I feel generally happy I get to see him on screen. Billy Crudup. He is in Big Fish. He is in Almost Famous. He is in Too Big to Fail. He's in Almost Spotlight. Famous. He's in Sleepers, and he has my favorite part in The Neighborhood Watch with Ben Stiller and Vince Vaughn. The dude.
Oh yeah, I recognize this guy.
There it is. We just did it.
We fulfilled the circle.
Fucking came full circle.
Wow, that worked perfectly.
Wow, yeah, and I didn't want to do it because I'm like, his whole filmography is a little. It's here and there. I believe he also played Steve Prefontaine, if I'm not mistaken. Steve Prefontaine was a very motivational runner. He ran for Oregon. Had a couple good quotes. I think he stirred the nation a little bit, but. Anyways, I was like, you know what? There's more movies that I like of him in it, and he's never in it that long. Besides like Big Fish, but he's never been in a big blockbuster. He was in Almost Famous. You know, he's always played a very. He's got a great smile, and he's always charming.
He's very cute smile.
You know, yeah, and like. I've always enjoyed him being on screen, and what really sold me was he was in. So he was in like he was in Spotlight. Have you ever seen Spotlight?
I haven't seen that yet.
He plays a lawyer, and he's very, kind of like straight edge, hiding some stuff. And then he plays in Almost Famous, where he's a rock and roll guy. He plays in Sleepers, which is very dark story that I don't need to get into, but he plays a greaseball in that. But The Neighborhood Watch, he has one of the funniest scenes I've ever. I never would have saw it coming in a million years, I think. Should say it like that, but like it really tickled me and made me laugh. And the fact that he plays like the color guy, in it, and it's very funny. I was like, this dude's got range. And to be that subtle and have that much comedic chops about it, like so anyways, Billy Crudup. I'll say he's my number 5, but yeah.
I accept that, absolutely. That is a good list. I think we got some good lists for us. So did you have any more honorable mentions?
Yeah, so let me read them out real quick.
Okay.
So Tom Hardy's off the list. I'm just taking him off.
Yeah.
No, everyone forget it pains me.
Unfortunately.
Fassbender's on there. Patrick Wilson.
Yep.
William Fichtner.
Who is that?
He plays I'm trying to think of a movie that you would have saw him in. God, I don't know what movies you've seen. Black Hawk Down.
No.
The Perfect Storm.
No.
Batman.
Which one?
The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
He's in the very beginning of The Dark Knight. He's the mob boss.
Oh, is he the guy at the bank?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I know what you're talking about now.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's an underground pick right there.
Fichtner's got there's more movies that I've seen with him in. He was in Heat. He's in like a lot of 90s things. There was something that we were talking
He usually plays like agents or cops or like some criminal stuff.
Very like sophisticated like businessman.
Yeah. He's always in a suit.
Yeah, it's funny because he's actually in The Perfect Storm, and that's the first time I ever saw him. So I always thought he was this like really dirty guy, and then in everything else he's just in a suit. And then I realized like, oh, maybe he was trying to like break character or typecast so that way he could get more roles. Carl Urban.
Oh yeah, Carl Urban,
and it's really just because of The Boys.
Yeah.
But he's also in Dredd, which is really good.
I really like Dredd.
He was in Thor Ragnarok. He had a small part in that. So, but I'm like not enough of a filmographer for me to be like I gotta go see more Carl Urban films.
He's in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Ian Moore. Yeah. Bryan Cranston.
That one I would have contested the fuck out of.
I said off because of Breaking Bad, which doesn't fit him. But then I was like, oh. He was in Trumbo, which I think he got nominated for. He was also in The Infiltrator. They were big time films that they were using his name to sell the film, and they were going off of the Breaking Bad stuff. And I was like, I'm not, you could have said Godzilla. No, it would have been like third bill and that. Actually, it might have been first bill.
He was like second build.
Yeah,
and then of course did the
yeah. It was a crazy thing.
Crazy.
Last one. Keanu Reeves.
I had him on my list, and then based on how this was going, I took him off.
Yeah,
because
smart.
I figured you would have contested the shit out of that.
Dude, he would have been so good. I think
shit. There's the fucking Matrix, and those made a shit ton of money. And
no.
Budgets.
But see, those weren't billed as blockbusters though. Like, a film can come out and do really well, right? It doesn't have to be a blockbuster. I mean, like if it comes out and it was made for $40 million, it makes $128 million. Like, great. Like, I don't care about that. If it costs $120 million and he's in it, leading it, I'm like, all right. They put a lot of time and effort and marketing into this thing. Like that. you know.
Mm-hmm.
But what for me it was one, his name. I think a lot of people
He's
know
very
Keanu,
recognizable.
and the John Wick movies.
I was gonna say probably like you could get away with it a little more if we were talking pre-John Wick Keanu Reeves, but
even after the first John Wick, I think it would have been all right.
yeah, but like just that franchise as a whole really helped his career out.
Yes.
Like because now you get John Wick, it's a kind of a cult classic, the first one, and then the rest of them are hyper successful.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you see Keanu's name in so many things, like fucking Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes.
Fucking other things.
Yeah. Yes, agreed. Yes, 100%. Keep going.
No, but like, you know, obviously like the new Matrix movie, which whatever your opinion of that is, people were looking forward to it. Obviously a big recognizable IP there. And yeah, just a bunch of other things. Like he made a bunch of cameos. He was in that Always Be My Maybe movie where he played himself. And I think a lot of people watched that movie just because he was in it for like 15 minutes.
That's the one I was telling you to watch.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, there's a very good Keanu scene in there. I liked it. I thought he was great in it.
Yeah, you were telling me like, hey, there's a cameo in this movie that I think you'll enjoy.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very funny. Was that your last one? Your honorable mention?
Yeah, do you have any honorable mentions?
Not ones written down, but ones that I've thought of as we've been talking.
Yeah.
So, Matt Dillon. Matt Dillon, that's a name that I think he's a great actor, but he doesn't get recognized a whole lot. House That Jack Built is probably the most prominent thing I can think of.
With Matt Dillon?
Yeah.
No, Something About Mary. He was in the 90s. Outsiders.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, he's got... He's got some other... It's not a bad call, though. That would fit in with the Paxton and the Kurt Russell. Like, I think that name teeters on people knowing, not knowing. And I think if you named, like, a movie, they would be like, oh, yeah. Not, like, looking it up, but, you know. Yeah, I think that would have fit in. I don't think he's ever led a blockbuster. He was
I don't think so.
He was in... anyways.
Yeah. I had one more, but I forgot what it was because my memory is failing me.
Yeah.
If I remember it, either before we end this one or on the next episode, I will bring it back up.
Yes.
But before we go...
Shit, am I fucking picking a movie right now?
You are.
God damn it, Kyle.
Haha. This is going to be a beefy episode.
Yes.
We're nearing the 3-hour mark.
Oh, shit.
I know. It's going to be juicy. It's a Barbenheimer episode. Of course it was going to be huge. I'm not surprised at all.
So I'm going to do it. I'm just doing it. We're doing it. God damn it. It's so dark.
I'm cool with dark. You know me.
All right.
I'm a little dark boy.
We're gonna have people open up their eyes a little bit. It's not necessarily dark in the artsy sense of dark. You know, nothing weird, just artsy stuff. We're gonna see. I just because I want to watch it again, and I remember it being like a little kind of like, hey, you know, somewhat like Bone Tomahawk. Maybe it's not as bad. There isn't probably a scene in there that is that memorable. But Cold in July.
Cold in July. I don't know if I recognize that.
It's got great. Name off all the characters that are in it. Yeah, I can't remember. It's Dexter's in it. I can't remember his name. Sam Shepard, and then Miami Vice. Oh, and it's got
Don Johnson. Sam Shepard.
Yes.
Michael C. Hall.
God damn it.
Wyatt Russell. Oh, it's got Kurt Russell's son in it. Okay.
This movie it's popped up, and I've seen it.
Oh, I guess it's already on my watch list. That's interesting.
Oh, is it? Oh, I've mentioned it before, so maybe it got on there from me. Maybe it got on there.
I probably got on there from you. Yeah, I think it was from you.
But it keeps popping up, and it is. I'm interested for a revisit because I have this on within a certain parameter of my list rankings, and I want to see if it's well warranted or not.
Cool, awesome. I'm looking forward to that one, and then we can discuss probably newer movie to just check out.
Sure.
Pair it with. Awesome. Well, if you guys don't want to be spoiled for Cold in July, be sure to check that movie out before episode 52.
Yes.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Neon Crew podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on our website, www.neoncrewpodcast.com. Be sure to get some merch from our Etsy page. I will link a link in the description. I can't even get the sentence out, but you know what I'm trying to get across. Speaking's hard today.
Yeah. No, you're tired, man.
We've done a lot of it. This is a nearly 3-hour-long episode.
This is like one of the more organic, juicy episodes we've had in a while.
It really is. I think the Guys Who Are Dudes list helped a lot with that.
Yes.
Especially towards the end there.
I would agree with that.
Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And just want to let you know, one more step towards hopeful monetization of it. If we can get some more watch hours on it, I'll have reached one of the criterias for monetizing the channel, hopefully, eventually in the future. So we'll see how that goes.
Keep spreading the name.
Check out the content. I've been putting out the film watches bi-weekly for now, but once it reaches current time, it will be on a monthly basis. And give us some good ratings on Apple Podcasts, Spotify if you can. That would be awesome. That would make my tummy tickle. And Mac, what do we say?
WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.